Welcome to Pass the Beat number 4, this time with David Osei. And we've also got Harvey Drums. As usual, add your own flavor to it. Post your video online and tag Urban Science. Use the hashtag #PassTheBeat. Also, we've been putting a list of recommendations on the Google Drive of different software to use, as well as some links to tutorials and all this kind of thing. And if you have any other software suggestions, please do send us so we can share this with other people. We've also started an artist interview series that's going to take place every single Thursday and feature members of Urban Science. Find them live on Facebook as well as on YouTube. Speaking of YouTube, we have been updating archive, and you can find many old Cypher sessions for your enjoyment. So that's it. Send us your new versions of Pass the Beat number 4. Very interested in seeing what y'all come up with. Have a good one.
Si le ciel tombe, que la mer monte, ça ne sera que justice. Y'a trop de raisons de nos actions, frère, l'être humain n'est que caprice.
Welcome to Pass the Beat number 4, this time with David Osei. And we've also got Harvey Drums. As usual, add your own flavor to it. Post your video online and tag Urban Science. Use the hashtag #PassTheBeat. Also, we've been putting a list of recommendations on the Google Drive of different software to use, as well as some links to tutorials and all this kind of thing. And if you have any other software suggestions, please do send us so we can share this with other people. We've also started an artist interview series that's going to take place every single Thursday and feature members of Urban Science. Find them live on Facebook as well as on YouTube. Speaking of YouTube, we have been updating archive, and you can find many old Cypher sessions for your enjoyment. So that's it. Send us your new versions of Pass the Beat number 4. Very interested in seeing what y'all come up with. Have a good one.
Si le ciel tombe, que la mer monte, ça ne sera que justice. Y'a trop de raisons de nos actions, frère, l'être humain n'est que caprice.
Welcome to Pass the Beat number 4, this time with David Osei. And we've also got Harvey Drums. As usual, add your own flavor to it. Post your video online and tag Urban Science. Use the hashtag #PassTheBeat. Also, we've been putting a list of recommendations on the Google Drive of different software to use, as well as some links to tutorials and all this kind of thing. And if you have any other software suggestions, please do send us so we can share this with other people. We've also started an artist interview series that's going to take place every single Thursday and feature members of Urban Science. Find them live on Facebook as well as on YouTube. Speaking of YouTube, we have been been updating archive, and you can find many old Cypher sessions for your enjoyment. So that's it. Send us your new versions of Pass the Beat number 4. Very interested in seeing what y'all come up with. Have a good one.
Dans tous les liquides que l'on boit, si le ciel tombe, que la mer monte, ça ne sera que justice. Y'a trop d'oreilles dans les actions, frère, l'être humain n'est que caprice.
Welcome to Pass the Beat number 4, this time with David Osei. Mesdames et messieurs, bonsoir. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our 13th edition of the hashtag The Process series of workshop interviews. Tonight, we've got our wonderful guest, DJ Overflow, on standby. And I just want to thank everybody who's donated so far. We also have a link to our online merch store. You can check it out down below. And we've been updating our YouTube channel and also our Mixcloud, which hasn't been in use in a little while, but we have lots of old Cypher sessions for you to check out. So please do check it out if you want to get a little flavor of that old flavor that we love. So also, of course, we love interaction. We love getting questions. So if you have any questions, just pop them in the comments and I'll pass them on to DJ Overflow. So who is DJ Overflow? Well, he was born and raised in Montreal, originally from Greenfield Park, part of the whole South Shore crew. Started DJing at a house party in high school, and then from there decided to learn how to scratch. And he came in 4th place in the DMC DJ battles sometime between 2012 and 2017. We'll talk about that at some point. He's opened for many big names in hip-hop, including Method Man, Black Milk, Slum Village, and Mr. Life. In addition to Urban Science, he's also a member of the Sunday Scratch Sessions crew, which I'm sure we'll get into. It's a very interesting, it's kind of like Cypher, but for DJs. So we'll get into that at some point. And he's also been streaming on Twitch on a regular basis. So if you want a little bit of that, we'll be sharing the channel shortly. So ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let us welcome to the process, DJ Overflow. Woo! How you doing, sir?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
I'm good. I will mention that we're kind of having some technical issues, so please do just drop a quick comment or something like that, just to make sure that we're all up and running correctly and you can hear everything and all this kind of stuff. But I think we're good now.
I think you're in the clear. So.
All right. So my first question is just I always like starting with a little bit about just, you know, where you're coming from and how you started the DJ and all this. So just maybe starting with like growing up in Greenfield Park, your parents, like how was your upbringing? Was it full of music? What was your upbringing like?
It was like any typical, like, you know, upbringing, like a teenager. I was more at the time. I was playing sports. Like I was playing football for the Greenfield Park Packers, and then I was active too. I was playing basketball and just playing around with friends and stuff, just doing typical activity stuff. I got into I've always loved music. I got into it more because I just liked whatever was on the radio at the time. I would always listen to the radio. I was always watching music videos and stuff like that. But then the main one, of course, is just like my brother Leon. He's a musician as well. So
right,
he got me introduced to a lot of interesting music. Like a lot of like me, like my brother was diverse in listening to so much music. At the time, it was like alternative grunge and stuff like that. But then hip hop came into play, and then my other brother Glenn was always listening to like hip hop music. So I got into listening to that, and then it just
so how many siblings do you have?
I have two older brothers.
Okay.
And then my oldest brother Glenn was more the jock, so he
Okay.
was more of the football. But at the time, hip hop was just such a thing in the '90s, right? So, and I was
Right.
always listening to like stuff that he would play, like Notorious B.I.G. and Tupac
Hmm.
and well, more also like slow jams, like R&B stuff, you know. So,
Hmm.
but with my other brother Leon, who's also a musician, he was the one that, you know, he picked up a guitar and he was you know, learning how to play and stuff like that. And then he was in bands and stuff, and just uh and then starting to learn like different other instruments as well. I believe he started playing the violin when he was younger.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, but it's just music. It it is kind of somewhat um strong in my family because my uncle does play at a band too. He's a drummer, and
Okay.
that's how I did learn how to play drums in high school too. So that's kind of how I came into like more of a to kind of learn how to keep things in rhythm, I guess.
Right. So,
Uh,
like you said, you started playing drums in high school. Did your so your music pro? You had a music program in your high school, and
yeah,
okay, that's great.
I did. Yeah, I did. I did take music classes in high school. I actually started playing the trombone. But I was
Okay.
I'm not good at brass instruments. Like I was never good. I just took it because at the time, like I desperately wanted to play drums, but it was three positions that was filled for percussion, and it was
Right.
always taken for the first 2 years I was doing music. So I took trombone. I
Right.
thought it was cool, but I never got into it. Like
Yeah.
maybe I could maybe try and learn how to play it now, but it's like brass instruments just because I'm not a good breather too. It's like I don't know.
Well, it's funny because trombone I think is one of the highest like turnover rates. Like it's one of those instruments that a lot of people don't continue after high school. You know, because
No.
it's a brutal instrument. It's especially for a high school kid to learn. It's like it's you know. But anyway, so then you were playing. You learned a little bit of drums, and then your
Yeah.
brother Leon learned.
Yeah.
Sorry, did you say guitar? I missed that.
He played guitar.
Right. Okay.
But he also he became a singer too. I know a
Okay.
lot of times like even to this day, like he still plays and still plays the guitar. Like I know, like before this whole pandemic that was going on, we were jamming it, me, my brother, and a few other friends just jamming along.
Right.
Uh, you know, me being on the cuts and the turntables, while my brother and two other friends of ours would just jam out. But and we want to kind of um, um, pursue more you know, opportunities to jam with each other, but it's
Hmm.
just because of what's going on, that's going to be on
Of
hold for
course.
now. But
Yeah.
yeah, as a DJ, like I did, you know, I like throughout the years I did jam with like a lot of bands,
Hmm.
just kind of more like improv type of thing. And I always liked the 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 notion of just trying to just kind of keep up with, you know, um, like different musicians and try to
Hmm.
come up with some unique sounds to incorporate whatever we were trying to do, you know.
Hmm. I
Uh,
mean, obviously, you jam with Urban Science on Thursdays once in a
yeah.
while. You know when you're booked, yeah,
Mm.
and it's always a pleasure. So I didn't know that you kind of got like really early on. You were jamming with bands because you know I kind of assumed that most. Well, actually, maybe you can tell me about this a little bit, like in terms of how. Well, first let's talk about like how you started just DJing in general, maybe, and then how you started to learn to scratch, and because I kind of assumed that most people scratching would learn, you know, with records and all this kind of thing, like not with live bands right from the get go. And it seems like
No.
from early on you were doing that. So tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about that.
Well, I again going back to high school, I had a buddy. I'm pretty sure he's watching.
Ah.
D Vertigo. He was the one.
Shout out to Vertigo if he's watching.
Vertigo. Yeah. Chris, what's up? Just no. There was a few. There was a few people that I knew in high school that were trying to just learning to DJ. They bought record. I mean, they bought a turntable. They bought a you know a generic mixer or whatever, and they were
Hmm.
just trying to learn. to do like simple like scratches, because at the time how I was introduced is because I was watching like bootleg videos of like DJs from California. Like the main one would probably be like Qbert and Mixmaster Mike. Those were the two that I looked up in terms and seeing these videos. And at the time, there was, you know, we were like the whole craze of like downloading stuff off Napster and like LimeWire and stuff. I remember just like downloading a lot of like scratch videos from different like scratch DJs, and I was just trying to just look and see how they were doing it.
Right.
But little did I know, it's like I had a buddy who was, you know, a DJ, but who was also a scratch DJ, and then I just kind of remember just watching me and another friend of ours we were just like looking at him, but I just kind of was looking at what he was doing, and then he was just doing a lot of things that I was just like, what is this sound? Like, what is this like wickedy like this distortion on a record?
Right.
So I just remember just really getting into it, and then I just remember doing a lot of few house parties here and there with him, not knowing what the hell I was doing, but just, you know, I just like kind of playing records and cutting on records and stuff. And then I think by the time like I finished high school, I remember like right after high school moving into the city, but also just like saving some money to actually buy a turntable and a mixer. So once I finally, I think it was.
So what did you have before that?
I had one of those like what I was practicing on. I bought like a generic mixer. I still have, but I was cutting not on a turnbelt turntable. It was one of those like Parasonic turntables. I don't know if you remember those, where it's just like those direct ones where, you know, they move when you like the records back and forth. It was one of those old timer record players that I would just like get frustrated because the needle wouldn't stand still. So I just know I was just beating the crap out of that turntable until I actually was able to buy my own turntables.
For somebody like me who doesn't know anything about turntables, you know, not a damn thing. So what do you mean, like the needle wouldn't stand still? Like, tell me what the issues were that you were dealing with.
With an old like Parasonic turntable, for example, because it doesn't have a belt drive, so a lot of times there's like a stop and play button.
Okay.
So what you would normally do is you would place the record on, like you would place the needle that's on the record, and then a lot of times, you know, when you have it on the record, it'll play. But then a lot of times when certain turntables, especially old ones, would go back and like remove automatically away in order to like, well, or a lot of times too, like let's say the needle jumps to the end of the record and then it'll stop. Like the needle will move back to its original spot, and then the record would stop. A lot of times with those type of records, you can't really scratch for those, because if you mess with the needle, it'll just kind of jump and it'll automatically just turn off and place back.
So there's kind of like anti-skip technology in the okay, and of course that's not going to work if you're trying to scratch if you're trying to make it skip, you know.
With the turntables that we know, like well accustomed to with DJs, it's just more those belt drive ones where you can just stop and start the record yourself without having the needle to move and close. So at least then with the record, you have the capability to, with those type of turntables, you have the capability to do whatever sounds you want, and you can move those records and create those sounds that you would want to try to do with those particular turntables. Those are the ones. Those are those Technique style turntables. Like the ones that I have are Technique 1200s.
The classics.
The classics, basically, and I've had those for like a good 15 years, and they still run strong. So it's like and I usually beat the crap out of these like turntables. So you know what I mean? So,
yeah, it's you know, sometimes I think people. Well, I mean, obviously, music gear in general is expensive. I've always said that, like, if you want to make a lot of money in the music industry, it's very easy. Don't be a musician. Just sell stuff to musicians. You know.
Yeah.
But some of the reasons why is because it can stand up to stuff, right? Like in the sense that, like, a home record player is not going to be as meant to be, you know, played in bars and, you know, people scratching and all that, you know. So it's got a little bit more resistance, shall we say. No, maybe that's not the right term. So you basically, from what I understand, you kind of started self-taught and kind of downloading videos and trying to figure it out.
I learned through friends,
right, and then friends kind of
but necessarily I didn't go to any, well, because now there's like so many like DJ schools and DJ courses.
I didn't even think about that, but yeah.
No, which is fine. I learned the basics and then try to but I learned the basics to be a DJ, more kind of like how to mix kind of like music, like if you're like as a club DJ, but at the same time try to learn all these technical aspects of using a turntable as an instrument. You know, a lot of times I kind of gravitate towards that more because it's just kind of me being myself. You know, like with a lot of musicians, they have their instruments, and that's their instruments is what they use to kind of speak their mind or express their feelings and stuff like that. With me, like a lot of times, I usually gravitate to communicating with just, you know, cutting a record.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or just doing like, you know, like whatever routine beat juggles, because a lot of times with DJs, they work with two turntables and a mixer. So a lot of times they use that particular setup as their instrument to showcase or to express themselves. So I think with DJs, a lot of scratch DJs, they're no different from any, you know, musicians, or, you know, especially ones that I just know how, like, for example, like guitarists, they can just wail on their guitar and you could just kind of feel them. With DJs, they can strike a chord amongst people too, however they try to express themselves using two turntables in the mixer. You know?
Yeah, I agree completely. For me, the sort of revelation of a turntable as a instrument was seeing Kid Koala, like, I don't know, I feel like it was 20 years ago, something like that. And he just completely, I'm sure, I mean, you listed him as one of your influences, and it just completely blew my mind. I mean, he's insane, you know? Anyway, so I saw him with Bullfrog, right, his live band at the time.
Yes,
and and I was like, oh my God, it's turntablism is a real thing. There's no BS about this. This is a real thing, you know.
I think with Koala now, it's like, because with the advancements of DJs using their laptop to connect through the turntables, with him, he stays pretty true to the art form, where he still cuts with records. Like, he'll press his own records and stuff like that, and manipulate and set it up the way he would need to. And like, of course, he's a gifted musician as well, but
absolutely,
like, I've seen, like, he's my hero in a sense where I've seen him, like, I don't know how many times, but I can never make an effort to go meet him, because it's just one of those things where you know, you're too afraid to meet your idols type of thing. So, but a lot of times when I see Kid Koala, like, the no show that he has ever done has disappointed me. Like, he's one of those DJs where I could just feel what he's kind of playing. You know what I mean?
Right. I'm sorry to make you jealous, but I've met him on a couple of occasions, and I've opened. I used to play with Pneumatic Massive, and Pneumatic Massive used to open for Deltron 3030, which he's part of. So I've met him a number of occasions. I'll tell you a little story. So, like I said, the first time was this show like 20 years ago or something like that. But then I was at the restaurant The Main, and I was just there, like, it was during the day. It wasn't like in the middle of the night. Just there eating with some friends, and somebody walks in, and I turn around and I go to my friends. I think Kid Koala just walked in. And they're like, what? That's not Kid. That's not, it's just some other Asian guy, you know? So like no, I think that's Kid Koala, you know? And I'm like looking over, I'm like, I'm sure it's Kid Koala, you know? So I went over there and I introduced myself and I said, look, I'm nobody, but I just want to say I really enjoy your music and thank you, blah, 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 you know, that kind of thing. And he was so he was there and he was there with a group of, let's say, 4 people. Okay, so he was talking to me and all this. And then he told me that the weekend before, he had just gotten married, and that in front of, sitting there was his wife and his parents. And he was taking all this time to talk to me, even though they were just having, like, their first, like, family, or maybe not first, but, like, they're having a family dinner, you know? So I just want to say that he's super, super cool. And I've contacted, we contacted him when we got our first date at Jazz Fest, because we were like, maybe if we get like a big name to come like play with us, it could like help, you know. Actually, this is another story I like to tell. I'm not going to keep telling stories about Kid Koala all the time, but I just because I asked him about it, I sent him a message, an email, and he called me. He called me back to turn down the gig, and he was calling me from Europe, but he wanted to personally like say, look, I can't do it, but you know, I just want to anyway, it's one of the stories I keep coming back to, just because like he's the nicest guy, but he's also pro, like he knows how to say no properly, you know what I mean? He was anyway, great guy. If anybody doesn't know who Kid Koala is, please check him out. He's incredible turntablist.
He's a dope turntablist with music.
I don't even think we should say turntablist anymore. Like he's a like, you know, you must have seen.
He's a composer.
Yeah. I mean, like he's doing so much. Anyway, talk to me about your influences. Talk to me about Kid Koala. I remember the first time I heard Kid Koala was on the radio. I think it was CBC radio or something like that. And right.
This was like years ago. I think he came out with Carpal Tunnel Syndrome, the first album.
Right.
And I have it on vinyl as it's like my cherished item, right?
I used to have the tape somewhere, but anyway.
I wish I had. I don't know if he's reissued, but he had this cassette tape, Scratch Ratch.
Oh yeah, I have Scratch Ratch Machach. Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
Maybe bring me a copy or something. But I remember hearing that album, and then I was trying to just research. Actually, he is one of the influence DJs from Montreal that I looked up to. But his music was kind of a little different, and from other DJs that I was like looking up to, in Montreal, like Montreal scratch DJs, because with him, because you could tell like it's so trippy. And it's so kind of out there, and then you know with the layer of music that he kind of puts, and then overlays it with like these cuts and these verbal like scratches, and to me he's a composer, because it's a lot of those compositions that he does is unique for what I heard at the time. And he still follows through with that art form to this day. So like for a guy who does follow through with the true essence of scratching, or we call it turntablism, and he is up there as one of those DJs that I like. Whatever he does next, I will like look, like his last play he did with the Mosquitoes. Oh man, I forgot the name of it. I remember going.
I'll look it up, but keep going.
Yeah, but he did a like kind of like a puppeteer type of play about a mosquito trying to make it big as a saxophone player. And it had like this kind of ambiance puppetry feel with him playing in the background. I know he's been doing a lot of those type of plays for a while. I remember seeing that one, I think last year at Place César, and I just remember it's such the music that he composes with the storytelling that he displays with the with that particular play that he did. I thought it was one of the most unique things I've ever seen. So, and it's so arty and artsy and so trippy, and yeah, man. Yeah, Euphoria Must Fall is probably another one that I remember. I didn't see this particular play, but I do have the book
Right.
of his illustration that he did, and the soundtrack for that one was just amazing.
Yeah,
So,
I saw this when they did it in Montreal,
Oh,
and it blew my mind. I hesitate to say, but it is true. I shed a tear, and it's just because it was like, I mean, look at this. They're doing a live play.
Yeah.
You know, filming it and projecting it. The music is all being done live. It's like, it's the ultimate culmination of all these artistic skills, you know, put together into one package, and purposely, I think, done in a relatively small venue. It was at the 5e Salle at Place des Arts, and I think that's on purpose, because then you can be right up close, you know. And oh yeah, that's it. And then after the performance, they let you come up and look at the sets and all this kind of thing. And of course, they have a daytime, like a kids showing, as well as a late night, you know. And it's just like, oh my God, it was really something to see this whole thing. Anyway, I strongly recommend, if people don't know Kid Koala, to definitely check him out. And like you said, that there is a comic book. In fact, I should mention that your brother Leon is on the stream. He's watching. Yeah. So I'll say sort of in backwards order. So he said Kid Koala is an amazing comic book artist as well. Yeah. Amazing. He talked about my story, said it was a crazy story. And then he said Kid Koala and DJ P-Love, amazing DJs. Yes.
P-Love,
P-Love, and I believe Eric Hove who's another saxophone player, had a group with P-Love. And I think P-Love was prior to the Microtone Kitchen, although maybe I might be wrong about that.
I know he has jammed with Killajoule.
Yeah.
He must know Mana for sure. So
he's part of that crew at any rate. And then the last thing, which was related to the beginning of your story, was your brother said JVC old school record player that belongs to my dad. Standard player. So there it is, the original gear of DJ Overflow. So anyway, we were talking about, like, well, we kind of got on a whole bunch of different topics there. But I guess, so you mentioned some of your earlier influences. You said that you were checking out videos of Qbert, and we just talked about Koala, and I forget the other Mixmaster Mike that you're talking about.
Mixmaster Mike, yeah. I mean, because I'm a big fan of the Beastie Boys, right? So
right,
yeah. So with him, like, again, like Qbert, Mixmaster Mike, they came from like those like stable of DJs from California, you know what I mean? And like a lot of those DJs they take like the art of scratching and the art of turntables to like new heights, you know, especially throughout the years, you know what I mean? So that's how I kind of learned to kind of piece what kind of patterns or skill sets or styles that they were trying to do, and try to kind of replicate it or do those type of scratch patterns my own way.
I sort of sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I sort of have a question, because I you know, in like hip hop as a obviously hip hop is black music, and also Latinos had a big part of it. But I've noticed in particular, well, definitely with b-boys, but in particular with DJs, there's a lot of Asian DJs, you know, and I kind of wanted to ask you, because, you know, the three people that we've talked about, I believe, are all Asian. Mixmaster Mike, I think, is
well, Mixmaster, he's part.
Okay, yeah. So
Asian.
You know, was that a factor? Was that something that made you go, "Oh shit, there's an Asian dude making music in this way"? Like, was that a factor, or?
Not necessarily, but I always thought it was just cool to have somebody with an Asian background, like that would take the scales, and, you know, cause they've done unbelievable stuff throughout the years. So it wasn't really much of like them being Asians that I was just more into the skill sets they were doing, or the stuff that they were doing. But it's always a plus to be influenced on heroes who are like me, or like us, like Asian, you know what I mean? So there's not a lot of like Filipino celebrities at the time.
At the time, definitely, yeah.
Maybe the closest thing for like Filipinos is like Lou Diamond Phillips, because I love La Bamba. So but him playing a Mexican, I doesn't transcend.
Right.
But yeah, there wasn't that much like Filipino at the time. There wasn't any Filipino like celebrities that I can think of that I was just like but with those guys, well, with Cupid at the time, and there was also like other DJs coming, like Babu, who's the DJ for he's part of the Beat Junkies, but he was also the DJ for Dilated Peoples.
Okay, right.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, he was somebody that I was looking up to, and also people were telling me that I kind of looked like him because we're kind of big guys. But right. I was like, I'll take it. But yeah, there was just a lot of DJs because the Filipino population in California is pretty huge, right? Especially by the Bay Area and the LA area. So and yeah, there was of course I got influenced by a lot of DJs in various, especially with here in Montreal. Yeah, Kid Koala was one DJ that I looked up at the time, but I was also in terms of stature, like you mentioned the Micro Kitchen crew.
Yeah, Microtone Kitchen, yeah.
Yeah, Microtone Kitchen, yeah, sorry. I remember seeing DJ Mana doing like he was competing. I don't know what year it was, but he was competing for the Canadians Canadians DMC Championship that was being held in Montreal. But the thing was, he competed, but he couldn't like because he broke his arm at the time. I remember that, and he was still competing and scratching and stuff with one arm. His other arm had a cast. Right. So I remember I was just like, wow, you know what I mean? It's just like hardcore. For a guy who, and he was the one that I remember just being in awe from seeing him do a lot of these stuff. That I remember watching videos of what Hubert was doing and fucking Mike was doing, but this is somebody that was kind of local. And again, at the time, I didn't know him well. I just remember just watching him, but I was kind of like a shy guy back in the day. So, but I was just kind of in awe of like him and a few other these DJs that turntablism into the fold of what you can do with being a DJ. So I give hats off to those guys. You know what I mean? So like for me, I think they were just kind of the stable of what good real DJs do. And for them, like they could scratch and stuff, but these are also guys that can play instruments. Like you see Killer Jewel right there. I know she with her being like she's a phenomenal scratcher, but also she does play like piano, and I know she does compose a lot of her. I know she's been composing a lot of music lately, and I know she came out with some new material and a new album recently. But I think with the stable mates of these DJs, it's like you could be a scratch DJ, but you can also just go beyond the realm and just do a lot of these things, not just being a scratch DJ or not being just a DJ in general. So, and those are the ones that I kind of looked up to more at the time, and even to this day. There's a lot of cool DJs that are still doing their thing as a scratch DJ, but also elevating themselves as musicians as well.
Well, I think there's a lot of different. The term DJ is used for describing a lot of different things, actually, and like one if we use that term generically, one DJ may have a totally different skill set from another DJ. You know what I mean? And so it's kind of just like saying musician. It's like one musician could be a composer, and the other one could improvise, and the other one could be a classical player. So there's different skill sets. But yeah, I mean, obviously, the whole scratch thing is like a relatively more recent phenomenon. And are you okay, or
No, I'm looking.
Yeah, okay.
I'm having a lot. I actually, because I have my desktop and I'm actually.
Oh, okay. It's all good. But yeah, so for those who don't know, definitely check out Microdome Kitchen. And I'll mention that DJ Killijewel was about to make her return to Cypher just right when the pandemic hit. So yeah, she's been working Yeah, she's been working on a lot of her own music. That's why she took a big break, and been releasing a few things here and there. I think I saw a video with a live drums and DJ and all that kind of thing. So actually, why don't we talk a little bit real quick, and especially since your brother is watching the stream, can you tell me a little bit about playing with your brother and I'm trying to find it right now. Here it is. And tell me about this band, Under Our Groove.
Yeah, it's my brother's band. It consists of four guys. My brother is the one in the far right on the screen. Okay. That's Leon, and then
I'll play this video. But keep on. Go ahead.
No problem. So Matthew Rodriguez is the drummer for the group, and then you have oh my god, I didn't forget their names.
It's okay. It's okay.
They're gonna kill me. Oh my god. Jack is the bassist, freak, they're gonna kill me so bad.
I put you on the spot. It's okay. Don't worry about it. So. But tell me a little bit about the experience. So I think this video, I don't believe you're in this video, but this is shot in Concordia, I believe.
Yeah, I did do a few collabs with them. They did come out with a few. I did some cuts for them, and I actually opened up for a few of their shows when they were in Montreal. When they were performing around Montreal. But yeah, he's my brother, Leon, and I've jammed with him before on certain projects and on variations of different bands too throughout the years. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the idea was that me and two other guys, like Matthew Rodriguez, who's the drummer in this band, we were supposed to do form another band with a friend of ours, a family friend of ours, Caesar Korn, who he was in a band throughout the years. We were supposed to all form a band and just work on some kind of trippy music, but we didn't get a chance to do a lot of course, because of what's going on with the world these days. But yeah, that's me with my my Batman T-shirt. So yeah. So what was that? I don't remember exactly.
I was trying to recognize the venue, and I'm not sure. I was wondering if it might be Crowbar, which is
there's Crowbar.
Wow. Okay. All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Shout out to Crowbar.
Man, I also did a few gigs there too.
Okay.
Some kind of a little parties here and there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that venue, I remember it was just one of those venues where it's super small, super cramped. But at the time, when I was just doing these little shows, Andre, what's up?
Yeah.
I just remember it's one of those venues where it's just super hot. And just I remember just sweating because I brought my turntables up there, and I just remember a lot of times just sweating, and just there's sweat all over my records, and I'm just but I kind of like those type of gigs, but that was me when I was younger and felt like I was invincible at the time. So it's I'm gonna make my way to the top by doing these gigs, and then eventually, DJ at the Bell Center. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, but I mean, everybody starts I'm sure frickin' Kanye West did some weird gigs like this back in the day. I mean, you don't start by playing for 40 million people, right? So you got to get started somewhere.
Unless you're a YouTube sensation,
right? That's a different thing. Yeah. But it's funny how that kind of allows people to skip. I guess that always happened, that you could possibly release something that became a big hit and then immediately go and do big gigs, or be part of a manufactured band,
a lot of times it's misses, but you do get your oddball. Unfortunately, you get your oddball, YouTube sensations that do make it big. Look at the state of hip hop right now.
Right.
you know what I mean? It's like everybody just sounds the same, and all you really need to do is just come up with a generic beat or whatever, and then just mumble your way to like a you know what I mean? Like it's kind of tough to like listen to hip hop these days. I think you would agree. Like it's just I can't.
Actually, I don't totally agree with you. Like I definitely love old school hip hop, but I like a lot of. I mean, look, there's definitely some artists from today that are freaking awful. There's no question about that. But I do like, I'm trying to think right now off the top. Like I like Migos. I like Well, I mean, I like Juice World. I like
Juice WRLD. I don't mind. Well, I don't mind.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
and it's the thing is, if you're gonna, I do understand completely where you're coming from. But if we go back to like some random year, I don't know, 1993 or something like that, we're like, oh, it was golden age, so many great things. Man, if you actually looked at all the music that was released, there was a ton of garbage that was also released, right? And there was a ton of stuff that all sounded the same and was like, you know what I mean? So I understand where you're coming from. I do understand where you're coming from.
Which is kind of crazy because like now. I like all that garbage music that I really hated in the '90s, like pop music. I remember. I just for some reason I like listening to it now. Like who knew that I like the Backstreet Boys? I mean,
right.
Yeah, Backstreet Boys. So I'm just like
that's the sound clip right there. That's the sound clip.
Every time I hear like that Backstreet's Back, I'm like, wow, I can't believe like back in the day I shredded the part and ripped it and dissed it, and then all of a sudden, every time I hear it or play it at a party, I'm like, I'm trying to learn the steps. It's horrible.
Okay.
It's horrible.
Yeah, I mean, my argument on that is that nostalgia goes a long way, and so like depending on the context in which you heard the music and all that. But I mean, look, obviously, also musical taste is subjective. So like, just because I don't agree with you or mutually we don't agree doesn't mean that you're wrong and your music sucks. It's not that at all. But anyway, all I'm trying to say is that I think I'm in many ways more excited about music today than well, not that I've ever been, but like there was definitely a period of time where I felt like most of the music out there was just garbage, but like I'm just thinking like, I mean, Lizzo, I'm thinking of Anderson .Paak, I'm thinking of like, and these, I mean, not that they necessarily have the most contemporary sounds. I know what you're talking about. You're talking about a lot of these kind of like, I even hesitate to call it trap because it's like pop trap kind of the 808s that are in everything now, that I agree. It's kind of like, okay, here we go, another like dark beat, and there's going to be a big, bass drop at some point, and it's just like, okay, well, I get it,
I do want to admit something. A lot of times when I DJ and I play a lot of the nostalgic hits, sometimes I tend to get annoyed. Like for example, like like the common music that's big on the club scenes, what Notorious B.I.G.,
sure,
Tupac. It's like, but a lot of times like I'll play it, but I don't play with the excitement that I used to because I play it often. So a lot of times when I do hip hop, especially too at the cipher, like I try to go as deep cuts underground or play some random mashup remix. So the fact that I don't want to kind of, I'm playing Hypnotized and then I'm playing. In the club, or and then like that kind of sector of selection of music that's pretty but people will love it, of course, because those are the hits. But then for a lot of times for me, and I think a lot of DJs could probably relate to it, it's like you play those songs, but you don't play those songs with as much excitement as something, because you're playing it over and over. It's probably a different crowd, but it's still kind of the same kind of like notion that it's the hits, but it's like that's a lot of times too. It's like when I DJ at places, it's like I kind of gravitate towards places where I kind of can just sign and play like unique random underground stuff more so, because it's more exciting to see people to kind of react than to just it's like people just to go crazy because you've heard the song like a million times and you probably have it on your Spotify playlist that you play like every single day, you know what I mean? So I think that's one of the things where with DJing, it's like you want to of course you want to cater to the audience, you want to cater to the crowd, but also for a lot of real DJs or a lot of good DJs, they kind of want to just also think out of the box and try to excite you about, oh man, I haven't like a lot of times when I try to play like certain songs, like I try to play ones like really deep cuts where I can get a reaction from crowds like, man, I haven't heard this song in like years.
Right.
Those
Well,
are the ones I get thrilled.
I mean, it has a lot to do with context. Like you're saying, like at Cypher, you can do certain things. But if you're playing a wedding gig, obviously you can't go and play some weird remix of,
It's always the Macarena, it's the chicken, it's
right.
Cha-Cha Slide. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Funky Town.
But but it's knowing the audience and playing what's appropriate for the. It's exactly that. Like now, imagine how inappropriate it would be in a wedding to play some weird, remix of I don't know, some obscure DMX song or what, you know what I mean, like something like that. It would be completely inappropriate. But then think about if you're at the Cypher and you played, Funky Town. People would be like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, what is this DJ playing?
And a lot of times I like to dare myself to. Oh man, I can't believe you're playing this song. And like a hip hop song, and I play Funky Town. Like I do.
I'm not saying you can't play fun. I'm sure there's a way you can do it. You know what I mean? But you get my point.
Don't test me. I probably will.
Yeah. Well, one thing I was noticing when I was watching if you don't know, I should mention that Overflow has a Twitch stream. I'm just going to pull it up real quick. And he streams, not on a particular schedule, but like, definitely if you follow his Twitch stream, you'll have an idea when his next stream is. And he pretty much uses all of his social media to let you know. What I was going to say is that when I was listening to the stream just earlier, there was a lot of variety. Like you were really mixing some very different genres, different styles, some kind of like mashup type ideas once in a while. And I don't know whether this is just like a playground for you or what exactly. But tell me about this a little bit.
Well, like a lot of us, like we're kind of on lockdown mode, right? So, and I kind of wanted to do something like this for all, just to. Like for years now, I was trying to find various platforms where I can maybe do like a weekly or like 2 times a week kind of like podcast.
Right.
And then because of the whole talks and debates about where DJs could stream, I think the best one on everybody's mind was using Twitch. Right. It's not, and the thing is like Twitch is obviously more towards gamers, but a lot of DJs like popular and underground have been using Twitch as the kind of their little thing to kind of like broadcast and showcase themselves and network and yada la di da di da. I started just doing like different like theme nights. Like I remember just doing 80s night of like music, and then do like straight up hip hop, and then I did like I used to do like theme artists, like I did like Daft Punk versus like Beck as I play their songs and try to mash them all together. But all in all, like I usually try to kind of come up with like unique mashups or mixes, or see in my library if I have anything weird to play type of thing. I know today when I did my first hour, I don't know why I ended up playing like just some soul music, and then I just amped it up to play like really hardcore alternative music. I don't know why, and then I just brought back, and then I brought it back down and just played like just straight up hip hop. But I just remember a lot of times I don't like to kind of, and I think a lot of DJs do this. Well, we don't really go into to any particular gigs that we're doing with a particular mind.
That you don't come in with a playlist and then I lost your voice.
Okay, no, I don't come into like a game plan of what I'll
Hmm.
play. So what I'm trying to say, I usually just try to I go into a night where depending where I'm playing, and I'll just kind of wing it and just kind of feel the crowd, feel the people, and then usually a lot of times it's not hard to see that people want to hear a particular type of music. With live streams, I just kind of because there's just nobody in front of me, I'm just kind of just figuring out ideas or coming up with stuff that I would try to do in front of club, like in front of like people. Because obviously a lot of stuff that I do on my live streams, I really can't do in the club because like nobody wants to hear like Linkin Park at a like a hip hop joint. Or no, well no, maybe because Jay Z and Linkin Park did an album together. But I wouldn't pay like hardcore like thrash metal at a like a club uh at a club somewhere in Montreal, like music or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
'Cause
Right.
it's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
like, cause I'll probably just be booed off the DJ booth. You know what I mean? So, but a lot of DJs that I looked up to. Like I think another a DJ that influenced me was this DJ Z Trip. He was like at the time he was kind of the king of mashups. Where he would take
Okay.
like two odd
Sorry.
records.
What was the DJ's name?
Z Trip.
Oh, Z Trip. Z Trip. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. At the time, could I remember watching a lot of his kind of videos of him like mashing up like different genres of music together. Like he'll take an acapella of whatever hip hop joint and try to add it to like some sort of like unique instrumental or something like that. So
Hmm.
and a lot of DJs now kind of gravitate towards trying to put all genres of music together into their sets. So,
Okay.
um, like a lot of the good DJs that are out there, besides having like the technical skills, kind of have that music awareness of just kind of putting everything together. Because a lot of times, like people just they don't really, depending on where you're DJing, a lot of people just kind of just want to hear some good tunes, and a lot of
Right.
times they just want to just have a good time. But to kind of maybe freak out these people there about, oh wow, you're playing a Fleetwood Mac song over a Daft Punk instrumental. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right. Right.
Like this is something along the lines of that.
Right.
So and that's kind of one of the things that I liked about being a DJ is just because I love all music in general,
Hmm.
except reggaeton music. But uh,
And mumble rap.
uh, yeah, again, Juicy World, I didn't mind, like rest in peace.
Yeah. Yeah.
But but yeah, it's just with yeah, I like to kind of I don't I like to go into like any gig that I have and just kind of have no sense of what I'm gonna play, but just through and just play, right?
Hmm.
But obviously, I'm also aware that I can't, like you said, like I can't do a lot of that at weddings. I'm not gonna play
Right. Right.
like Metallica at a
Yeah.
wedding, depending if the bride and groom wants it.
That's a different thing, yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit. So I mean, you kind of got into this a bit in your answer, in the sense of. So I'm thinking of like, what you're doing on Twitch versus what you do in a club, or what you do live, and what are you finding to be? I mean, you said a little bit that you kind of experiment a little bit more, and there's certain things that you'll do on Twitch that you could never do in a live setting. So what are kind of the good things or advantages to streaming that you're finding, that you're kind of experimenting with, and maybe some of the things that you might take to like an actual live setting, and then what are the things that I mean, I think I can guess as to some of these, but what are the less good things about doing it online?
Well, let's start with that. It's pretty easy. Like I'm just doing it. I'm doing these live streams in my basement. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or a lot of times, like I see a lot of DJs performing, whatever in their house or in their backyard. And don't get me wrong, it's like it's cool. And a lot of times when I see a lot of these DJs, it's like playing club music and stuff. I'm like, okay, cool, but it's like you know, okay, and don't get me wrong, like I know a lot of these DJs have like a lot of viewers and stuff, but the experience of just kind of playing in front of those people, like I have nothing against a lot of these DJs that are playing club music and like by all means, like you know, play your strengths, right?
Hmm.
But it's just to me, it's a little kind of like, oh, you're playing some, you know, some hardcore dance hall, you know, and there's a lot of times you're playing like they have videos and stuff like that too, of like their music videos and stuff. It's like cool, and I see them like moving around, and it's like, you know, typical like DJ kind of dancey
Right.
stuff. But at the same
So
time,
it's
it's just
like
like,
it's not adapted for the reality.
yeah, but maybe that's the case. Maybe it's because of how the set mood that the world is in right now. Like, and that's another like another topic for another time type of thing. But it's just like I'm just looking at these DJs. It's like, oh, cool, and then it's like, but it's just for me. It's like I feed off like energy from like the people either on a positive or a negative light, but I do need kind of like people in front of me, or at least one person in front of me to just kind of hear me, you know what I
Hmm.
mean? So I can just
Yeah.
kind of get a reaction. So for me, the takeoff of like I don't I like doing these live streams. Well, I kind of stopped for just for various reasons, but I just got back into it just literally today. Obviously,
Okay.
I was using you and this interview as an excuse to actually do it,
Right.
but I did want to go back and maybe do a weekly stream maybe throughout August. But I think for the most part, I'll probably continue on more and more once like you know winter the cold weather winter sets in,
Hmm.
because let's be real, like a lot of times we don't really want to get out of the house in the winter. So I think the stream would be more beneficial for DJs to kind of stream more like later on in the year when the weather gets cold outside, and also like just with the situation that's going on in the world, like we like because a lot of times now with like bars and clubs, it's like they can't really do. I call it like right now because there's a thing where like a lot of DJs and like a lot of places don't hire like DJs and bands necessarily,
Hmm.
because of like you know specific restrictions and you know like early like closures like a lot of bars and clubs are
Noise
like closing
complaints and yeah.
yeah, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I call it the I jokingly called it the footloose factor, where
Sure.
I feel like a lot of times like with the government that's putting all these regulations on these bars and clubs, it's like it's pretty much you're forbidden to like dance
Mm.
anywhere, and I'm just like wow, like is everybody like in this kind of like is everybody being punished because they want to like you know dance, which I kind of understand because I do feed off like energy in terms of people having fun and dancing and stuff, but that's kind of where you know the downfall of doing these live streams is like you're just kind of catering to you mostly, which is fine. But the I guess the upside I would say is that for me is just I would be more kind of like trying to find creative things. So what I would probably do at not necessarily a club, but let's say if I was opening up for a group or a band or something, or if I was doing some like showcase at an event or something, like I usually try to figure out or just try to make a like a playlist on the fly to see if like this piece of music can maybe fit with this piece of music,
Hmm.
either by mixing them or trying to do like a pretty unique transition
Hmm.
or stuff like that. So that's and that again is one of the reasons why I kind of enjoy DJing.
The greater reality that we don't know what's going to happen, and that we haven't been able to perform in front of people or for people, I should say. Was that a factor in why you hadn't been live streaming or
Well,
not?
yeah,
Or
well, it was like so I think the last time prior to today that I live streamed was like the end of I think like the first week of June, something like that.
okay,
I just remember I just kind of got sick and tired of doing the live streams because well, like let's be real, I wasn't getting a lot of views. So I just like, and that's where I kind of felt like, oh yeah, I'm kind of just catering to myself and not like just DJing to myself. So, and plus too, it's like one of those things where I knew that if I just put something aside, put something that I love aside, if it's like music or whatever, I know eventually I'll miss it and I'll go back to doing it. So that's kind of where it came down to it. But also too, yeah, it's just because it's like what am I gonna play? Like it's always one of those things that what am I gonna do? What like my next stream, what am I gonna do to outdo what I just did? So in terms of like mixing or playing songs, because a lot of times I do play the same songs, not every live stream, but every so
Yeah,
often, you know what I mean?
you
So
got your standbys, your
yeah,
favorites, your standbys. Yeah.
yeah. So so I don't know like for all DJs, but I think or even musicians that do like live streams. But I just know for me, um I just kind of miss how what it was to me to be a DJ. Like even then when I was DJing, like there were just places where I would just DJ to like an empty bar or stuff like that, and those were a lot of times where I would get depressed because it's like, oh, like I'm making good money, but it's like,
Sure.
oh wow, that's that dude that's at the bar drinking, and I'm just kind of just catering him, you know what I mean? So and a lot of times
Yeah.
too, you also you're DJing to like even though you're DJing to an empty bar, you got your staffers there and stuff like that. But it's like the thrill for me is just like to those gigs where it's just there's people there, you play, you go in clean slate, not having an idea what to play, you play them, and then you get a reaction, either positive. Most of the time, it's like positive, but then or maybe times it's like negative. But you get a reaction from like people, and that's kind of what I miss about the cipher. Because the thing is what was great about DJing at the cipher, like before you guys and during intermissions, is like I kind of take those times to kind of like find unique like those opportunities to find like unique things I would play, and a lot of times I usually feed off you guys depending what you guys play, and I'll just try to find something that kind of matches that, and I'll try to do like quick mixes because obviously you're doing the change ups and
Right.
you're trying to, and then you can try to get everything in order, and while you're doing that, I'm always trying to find ways to like do weird mixes on the fly super quick.
Right.
Those are the ones that I that's the one I really miss in terms of the cipher. Is just like because what's cool about DJing there was what was cool about when you let me do it the first few times like DJing there, you kind of let me like let loose in terms of you know what I mean, like
Yeah.
I could play like the hip hop that we all love, but I could also just try to find things to play that's out of the box. Sometimes I know a lot of times I play a lot of funky stuff, which that's really cool, and then I'll probably maybe play some weird oddballs here or there. But at the same time, it all depends on the context of like on the night and stuff like that. So, but yeah, those type of gigs, man, it's where I could just showcase and kind of be kind of more open, or the ones that I kind of gravitate towards more than just doing a weekly at a bar or a club,
Right.
depending on the place. Like I've done a lot of places where I could play like some pretty cool trippy like lounge like deep house, which I'm kind of getting into now. Like I've always liked deep house, but it's like
Okay.
now because it's just like smooth, soothing, relaxing, and I'm just
Right.
sun is out, you want to listen to some good
Right.
like. But it all varies, depending on where I'm DJing.
So yeah, we went all over the place, which is great.
Yeah.
But just that's fine. It's there's no format. We don't care. But yeah, I agree with you in the sense of like getting. Well, I agree with you, and I'm also I find it interesting that for you, it's getting that reaction, getting that, like, you know, I don't recall specifically with you, but I know that there are definitely some DJs at Cypher who, when they see like a certain person walk in the door, they'll play a track, you know what I mean? They'll either play their track or they'll play like something that they know that guy likes or whatever, you know what I mean? They kind of, and then, you know, when the person turns out to look at the DJ, you're like staring right back at them. You're like, that was for you, you know? So anyway, it's one of those things that happens.
I do like to do the point. Like,
yeah, oh, you do a point, okay.
I do a point when I know, so I do know, when I know certain people that are there, I know what, you know, I don't know what to play. Shout out to Sham on that one.
Shem.
Yeah, a lot of times or whatever I see him, it's like I gotta play a Chaos song.
Yeah. So he did actually last week or 2 weeks ago when Shem was on the stream, he did answer your question of the favorite Chaos tracks. I haven't gone through that yet and done the whole time codes and the clips and whatever, but we got into that a little bit. So Chaos is a mutual love. So let me just get back to my notes here for a second. I sort of wanted to ask you a little bit, since we're kind of talking about doing like doing bar gigs versus doing weddings versus doing Cypher and all this. Your first bar gig was at the Peel Pub, so I'm kind of curious about that experience. I think everyone who has been a college or university student in Montreal has probably been to the Peel Pub at some point. And kind of going from that to like the first time. So basically well, we can also talk about how we met and all this, but I was just going to say that we kind of basically got to know each other through the Cypher, and then you got booked to do a Christmas party that we did with the brass band for DNEG, the big special effects company. And that was a real kind of revelation, or not revelation, but it was cool to be in that context with you, because I was like, oh, I really liked how you adapted what you were doing for that context, but it was still very Overflow. Like there was still like, certain kind of hip hop stuff going on, but you weren't just playing hip hop, you were playing other stuff because you knew it was a corporate Christmas party. It wasn't just like a hardcore,
I don't know if they gave me a list of songs to play.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
It came easy.
Okay.
I remember, I don't know who was in charge. I just remember she was telling me, I just remember somebody emailed me or somebody gave me some sort of list, which is it's probably pretty much the same that I would remember just playing anyways, you know what I mean?
So it wasn't so, yeah.
So they're all playing, but I also put in whatever, stuff that I like type of thing.
Right.
But
well, how restrictive did they say, like, you've got to play this, or was it kind of open?
That was open.
Like how about it was open? It was just like, we'd like to hear these tunes at some point.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
I remember I just supported somebody because I didn't have enough Arab music. Like I don't have Arab music.
Oh, Arabic music.
Yeah,
okay.
Arab music. Maybe I had what's the one with Punjabi MC there? That's the only one I have in terms of like but even at that, it's more club, like, you know what I mean. But that gig was pretty. First of all, like that, what was that place called? The
Bay Mathieu.
Because that was my first time actually being there. I know of it. And then it was kind of like the layout and the setup that they did. It was pretty cool. I actually liked the fact that I was kind of perched like on top, like up by the edge, where everybody was kind of like partying in the.
It was like if I worked at that company, I'd be like, this is the best Christmas party ever. Like it was really well done. I gotta say,
people were pretty chill, you know. And so and everybody was cool and everybody was digging in. I was kind of digging in the sense where it was very like everybody was just having a blast, and a lot of times I can't even see much because there was just so much like like smoke, like the smoke machines was just going off and stuff like that, and I was just like, wow. But no, it was one of those gigs where I'm just like, wow, and it was one of the better Christmas gigs that I've had in like years. But everybody was cool. Everybody was like was having fun, and that place was pretty happening. Like it was pretty cool, like how they set everything up, and because I've never done something kind of like that. But I know you guys, you played before, and I know you guys. I only got there the last hour of your sets,
right?
But But man, when like the crowd was pretty much just like having a ball over there. But like, how was the experience when you guys were playing?
It was a blast. I mean, it was. I got to say, like, doing these kinds of corporate gigs and stuff like that, it can sometimes be. Well, we told about soul sucking gigs. It can definitely be one of those. But the reality was so the story is that they. I'm not sure if I want to necessarily give the names, but somebody who is a big fan of Cypher was working for DNEG at the time, and this person brought some of their coworkers to see the Cypher. Mm-hmm. And they were like, "Oh my God, this is amazing!" And the person who ended up organizing the Christmas party contacted us and was like, "We want to hire the band, and we're doing this." This was back actually really early that they wanted to do a like a summer party for their employees, and they wanted to hire us. But then when I told them what the price was, they were like, "Oh, we can't, like, that's way beyond where we were thinking." Yeah. And I think, I mean, they were maybe just not being very realistic, because I mean, if you check what DNEG is, I mean, they did special effects in like the Avengers and stuff like this, so they better have some goddamn money. So and not that we overcharged or anything. The price that we asked for was a very standard rate. But anyway, so it didn't work out for the summer party, but I think they maybe contacted us last minute, but then they thought about us again. They were like, "Okay, we're gonna make it happen for a later point." And so then they recontacted us for the Christmas party, and ended up getting the brass band instead of Cypher. But then, of course, they still remembered you from that night at Cypher, and they're like, "We still want to have Overflow." So I was like, "Okay, no problem. I'll see if he's available." And we set it up and all this. But yeah, it was. They treated us personally. They treated us very well. I think it was like. I think we had, because it was open bar. So we could all have open bar, and we also had a meal, and it's just in general. When people treat you like you're like they're bigger than you, then it's not a lot of fun, But when they treat you like you're just a human being and you have the same needs as everybody else, then it can be a lot of fun, And anyway, for us it was cool, and they were nice about it. And then actually, even just the fact that they're like, "Oh yeah, he doesn't have to come in for the sound check in the middle of the afternoon if he's only going to play at 11 p.m." You know what I mean? So like they were kind of flexible about certain things, which was nice,
I think that was one of the things that I remember going back and forth with whoever the promoter was.
I can't remember the name of the organizer right now, but anyway.
But I remember, because originally I wanted to kind of bring my own stuff, but they were providing other stuff too. But the crazy thing was, I was having issues with the equipment. But luckily
Oh really?
I didn't. But I was smart enough to actually bring my DJ controller, because I ended up using that.
The controller, okay.
Yeah, just because I knew if there was an issue, at least I have my backup, and I don't want to be like, "Oh, I can't DJ, guys. Sorry." You know what I mean? So,
yeah. That would have been a disaster.
No, but luckily everything went well, and people were pretty cool, and it's like, I think it was one of the better Christmas gigs that I've had in years.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like I said, there's good corporate and there's bad corporate. And, at the same time, it's like we all got to pay the bills somehow. We got to pay the bills somehow, whether it's a day job, whether it's teaching, or, it can be all kinds of things. It can be completely unrelated to music. And, at some point I was doing a lot of teaching, and I just kind of had the realization that that's not why I got into music. And so I started to kind of cut down my teaching a little bit. Yeah. But no matter what, I think you have to have some way of making a living, and usually that's not 100% in line with your artistic. Like, how many artists are there that are only doing things that are 100% their artistic vision, how they want to do things? Like, that must be like 0.01%, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, of people like that never do a product placement, never do, you know what I mean? Never. Like, of course you have to, at some point you gotta make some amount of money. So anyway, I'm just saying that the corporate thing is just part of the game,
Part of the game, indeed.
Yeah. So let's see. Where can we go from here? So I'm kind of curious. We didn't really talk too much about the DMC battles. Nope. Maybe talk to me about so we talked about how you learned scratching, and maybe talk to me about those experiences.
Yeah. Well, ultimately, because I loved scratching and doing beat juggles and stuff like that, I thought ultimately, yeah, I could practice and do these DJ competitions. Like the
Hmm.
premier competitions for DJs at the time was the DMC, which is catered to like technical. Yeah, there you go. Like technical DJs who would come up with like a 6 minute routine incorporating like skills sets, incorporating scratching, mixing, scratching, beat juggling, any which way to kind of to draw a composition to fan reaction or
Right.
judges at this point. It's basically like figure skating for DJs, where it's like, well, it is
Yeah.
like because
Sure.
like the judges like look like through the technical aspect, they look through crowd
Right.
reaction, they look at like difficulty skill wise. So it's like, so
Right.
basically it's, yeah, it's kind it's exactly like figure skating
Sure.
or gymnastics if you want to call it that. If but yeah, I so I because I have to go back to like the years for sure when I did it. So yeah, the first time I did it was in 2012. It was held in Montreal, and yeah, it was at the Cabaret Underground, which is now Newspeak.
Right.
I just remember I did it. I want to do it for the first time. Yeah, and that video was that I posted is pretty much my first year. I was nervous as hell when I did it, but I knew that I wanted to do it. So I figured, whatever, I give it a shot. I'll try it, and then maybe continue my luck if I continue on doing it, like throughout the years. But I just kind of need to break the ice, basically.
Hmm.
So I did it. So that I came in fourth, that year. I know the one who he became a good buddy of mine because there was a bunch of guys from like Hamilton that came to that particular DJ battle because there wasn't a regional battles in Hamilton, so they like uh, three DJs from Hamilton came in, and I believe a buddy of mine, his name is Rix. He placed first that year. He's also Filipino too, so like shout out to Filipino, yeah, so I came in fourth in that one. Uh, so 2013 and 2014, I did have to travel to Toronto because I think they didn't have the DMC in Montreal those 2 years. So to qualify to make it to at least the Canadians, I had to go to Toronto to compete. So I went to those 2 years, 2013, 2014, and then I came in fourth for those two as well. And then, like fast forwarding now to 2017, they did a DMC battle at Under Pressure
Yes. Shout
that
out to Under
year.
Pressure.
And yeah, shout out to Sterling and Melissa if you guys are watching. So I necessarily didn't want to do it, but because they didn't have a lot of DJs, I ended up doing it anyways. But the thing is, it was that year, 2017. There was only four DJs, so I say I came in fourth, but technically I came in last on that one. So, but I'm still gonna call it like fourth
Fourth.
place. But I thought maybe I should have gone at least higher. Like at least I would have been happy to at least place third, but
Right.
just to kind of break the barrier. But no, I did those experiences doing those DMC battles, and they were fun. It was kind of stressful as hell, like depending because. Yeah, because a lot of good DJs, a lot of good scratch DJs that would compete in those battles, they would practice or come up with routines like months in advance. Like you're looking at maybe half a year, like 6 months prior, right?
Right.
At least come up with something and then practice and then do it repetitively. So muscle memory and stuff like that. So
Right.
I know a lot of times I usually just maybe prepare something at least 2 months in advance and just try my luck there. But like I don't necessarily want to say no that I'll ever compete again. But you know, it was fun when I did it. I just need to kind of find the motivation to kind of maybe do something like that again. But
Well,
there's also various other like DJ competitions I would like to try to do. Like the three style is always a good one. Which is that one is basically it's catered towards like club DJs where you have like 15 minutes to kind of rock a crowd. So
okay, I see.
yeah,
Yeah.
but there's
Well,
all yeah
I'm kind of curious because I mean I don't know again a lot about
yeah.
the sort of DJ world,
Mhm.
but I believe I could be wrong about this, but I believe when A-Track won it, that was kind of like one of the kickoffs. Like I think he won when he was like 12 or something like that, right?
Yeah, he was the pioneer. Well, he was okay because he at the time he was the youngest DMC winner.
Okay.
So he was yeah, I believe he was 12, but I think somebody 2 years ago, a Japanese DJ who was a 10 at the time, he won it. So like you snooze, you lose, A-Track. But the thing is, well, I think with A-Track is coming from Montreal, he kind of broke the barrier for in terms of like scratch DJs and turntablism in Montreal and in Canada,
Hmm.
too. Because I know there was a slew of other like DJs in Canada, but I think for A-Track being as young as he was and just being like he was vicious on the turntables. Like he was just doing a lot of stuff ahead of like his time being such a young DJ, and then he elevated himself to be even more of a turntablist like
Hmm.
DJ. And then look at him now; he's just like international like superstar basically. So it's
Right.
like,
Yeah.
but us Montrealers, we know him as just being this kid because I
Yeah.
know there's a lot of I've seen the videos that he's done for at Under Pressure like when he was starting up, so it's like
Oh, nice.
I know that was his kind of his starting point when he kind of DJ. I know he did maybe a year or maybe a year or 2 years of like Under Pressure,
Okay.
um but yeah, he a lot of us DJs, especially a lot of us DJs in Montreal, we look up to A-Track. So
Hmm. Yeah.
um
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, it's like it's the carrying the banner forward, and maybe some of that can come back. I mean, I don't really know. Like, is the like going to DMC, like going to you said you went to Toronto, I think,
Yeah.
for at least one of them. Is the community like what is it? I mean, obviously this is a competition setting, so it may be a little bit different. But is the community open, or is it kind of like a little cold? Like what is it?
No, are you talking about now? Like, I find that
Well, I guess now or back then.
well, the DJ community now, I could say, is pretty much alive and strong. There's
Okay.
just so many groups, DJ groups. Like, I remember when I went to Vancouver a couple of years ago. I knew some DJs there, like the Scratcher crew from Vancouver. I know, like,
Mhm.
and most of them are Filipinos. So it's like, and yeah, I know the DJ, the scratch scene is pretty huge out west in Canada, and then you have your slew of other DJs in various parts of like Canada. But the scratch scene in Toronto is huge. I
Mhm.
know a lot of DJs. Uh, Scratch DJs, wicked scratch DJs from Toronto,
Mhm.
uh like I know like there's a crew of like DJs that I know from like Hamilton that are pretty dope. And then you got like a legendary like like got Scratch Bastards. Like well
Right.
he's originally from I believe somewhere in I think some Atlantic province, I don't remember. Maybe Nova Scotia. But I know he did live in did live in Montreal for a bit.
You're
And then
you're you're 100% right. Nova
yeah.
Scotia, Bedford, Nova Scotia. You nailed it.
All
Wow.
right, I'm Scratch Bastard's #1 fan.
You
But
got it right
but
there.
he's a dope DJ though. But yeah, I know
Yeah.
he lived in Montreal for a bit, and then he just made his way to Toronto, and then he's just pretty much killing it there. But there's just a lot of wicked DJs in Toronto that it's like it's sick. But the community, I think the community in general, in terms of like scratch DJs in Canada, is bigger than it ever was. I just
Okay,
know
I
there was,
didn't know that.
yeah, I just know that at one point there was kind of like the popularity would diminished a bit in terms of the scratch community, but then with I guess the new technology these days, and now people being more open to kind of like interact with each other, like DJ wise, and just jam with each other. Yeah, I think it's now bigger than ever, and I think it's going to grow with a lot of these DJs, set in stone in terms of this art form, and there's a lot of young DJs out there too that are just learning and trying to use this craft and this art form to and hopefully they take it and elevate it and promote it, because real DJs is. It's of course you don't need to be a scratch DJ to be a good DJ, but it does help to have at least a technical forefront to being at least a good creative DJ.
Yeah, well, I think it's like like earlier I made the comparison to musicians and saying like there's some who can read really well, some who can improvise, some, you know what I mean? Like there's different types of skills, but I think it's important to at least have a little bit of all of the skills, even if it's not your main thing. Like I totally understand somebody who, like, clearly for you, like scratching is a specialty, like all that kind of turntablism, not just scratching. I mean, the whole bag of tricks or whatever you want to call it, it's a passion and it's a focus for you. But that doesn't mean you don't have to know how to mix. You know what I mean? You still got to know that,
Yeah.
And somebody who mixes, they still have to know a little bit, at least a little bit.
A lot of times when I see like young kids basically that want to become a DJ, I usually just start telling them the basics of just mixing two songs together, because the thing is, that's how DJing was in the beginning. It's not like you were a scratch DJ, and like back in the 80s, you were just trying to put two records together, but then the hip hop evolution began, and then guys like DJ like Cool Herc was the one that kind of brought the forefront of putting breaking down beats, and then you got like a lot of DJs. Like the best one would be I guess the best DJ I can think of would be oh my god, I can't believe I should know this, because scratch DJ, it would be the song "Rocket" by Herbie Hancock.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So that little scratch part in the Grand Wizard Theodore. He was the one.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
He was the one that kind of brought the scratching into the forefront. Like because they did a performance. I think the history was like Herbie Hancock performed Rocket at the Grammys, I believe, and then you had this DJ that was just cutting the record back and forth, and then it turned out to be Grand Wizard Theodore, who was just was zig zig zig, you know what I mean? So and then the evolution from that began in terms of what you can do with the turntable. So it's not just mixing, it's scratching. But I think for the most part, I would always tell people, first, if you want to be a DJ, you should learn the basics of at least mixing a song, because not everybody wants to be a scratch DJ, and a lot of times it's like, even for scratch DJs, like a lot of people don't even go to like shows to watch DJ scratch. It's just a lot of times they would go to like a rave or festival just to see DJs put their hands in the air and put shape signs. It's fine, but it's just there is that element of art that a lot of DJs do. Like even with like going back to 8-Track, it's like he does all these festivals and stuff, but he still cuts. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, he still do a lot of those things. So, but yeah, again. Because I always ask, whoever wants to be dude, like, what do you want to like? What's your intention of being a DJ? Like, do you want to be a DJ because you want to scratch? Do you want to be a DJ because you want to like play at clubs? Like, and they're all like right answers. You don't. There's no. I wouldn't.
Yeah.
Anybody for saying, "Oh, I want to be a DJ to make money." Well, hey, people do a lot of things to make money, right? But it's just for me. I would always just say, look, just learn the basics, and then see if whatever you want to pursue from there.
Right.
From being a
mean,
DJ. So.
I think it's the same with like more traditional instruments, because I never want to say like it's not an instrument, because I totally do believe that it's an instrument. But it's true with more traditional instruments in the sense of like, you sometimes, like, I always find it interesting, like take T-Pain, for example. We were talking about music today sucking, and a lot of people don't like T-Pain, overuses the auto-tune and all this, but I do. Yeah, right. I'm with you. I actually really like T-Pain. But then it was it was a revelation for me, and I think it was a huge revelation for a lot of other people, when he put out at least one or two videos where he was just singing with no autotune, and it was like, oh my God, he's got an incredible voice. Like, he's a killer musician, and many other people who I'm forgetting the names right now, but there's somebody else who like sings and plays piano, and it's mostly like pop music, but then and very kind of basic in terms of the complexity or whatever, but it turns out the guy's like a super high-end jazz pianist. He just doesn't play that stuff for this context because it's like the wrong context, So I think it's very important to have your fundamentals together, no matter what area you're in. That said, it's true that some people kind of blow up and they don't have their fundamentals together, but whatever. That's a thing that happens too. I'm just gonna catch up on a couple of the comments that we got. So Leon said earlier, when you're talking about A-Track, he said, that's right, I was there at the DMC when A-Track won. Montreal won, LOL. And then from way earlier, I missed this comment earlier. I just want to pull it out. Richard Cullen said, dance hall statistically gets 6 times more noise complaints. So, I don't know if that's a statistical fact. I think it's a joke.
I kind of agree.
Oh, yeah, eh?
Yeah, but again, I love dancehall. It's
right,
because it's such a vibe. But I can understand people complaining about it, like especially if you're like if coming out of a club and you're living like next door. It's like
right.
I can understand, especially if it's like older people that just want to get some sleep.
Yeah. But I mean, there's also the whole thing of like the well, I'll just call it racism. I mean, I was going to say like a different type of racism. I mean, there are many different types, but it's like when a club has hip hop, people are always like, there's all kinds of like, oh my god. It's like, what's the big deal, And Leon adds, T-Pain is an amazing producer and great singer. Yeah, absolutely. I'm totally down with T-Pain, but I'm just giving him as kind of an example as like, the somebody that actually has like their musical fundamentals really, really together, even though their music is maybe not for everyone's taste, and maybe some people think it's very simple or boring or whatever. But
to be honest, I prefer like auto-tune T-Pain because I'm used to it.
Okay.
But he is a great singer. But I just every time I hear Low with Flowrider, that's T-Pain.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it's like the like if you are celebrated or if you are hated, there is something that's grabbing people's attention, and he is both, right? He's both celebrated and he's hated. So there's something there that's really grabbing people, and it's an undeniable sound, right? Like it's a choice. It's not. Yeah.
I like you, T-Pain.
Fair enough. So we were kind of talking about although I kind of want to move in a different direction, because I was going to ask you more about like Sunday scratch sessions and all that. Do you want to get? Okay, let's get into that. Tell me, because we were talking about community and how there's it's healthier than ever. You're saying that the scratching community is healthier than ever. The DJ community is healthier than ever. So tell me a little bit. Well, explain to people what Sunday scratch sessions is, and get into that.
Well, it's formed by originally it was the Sunday scratch scene, I believe, but basically, going back to the microtone kitchen crew. Oh my god, because DJ Mana, when he was still here at the time, he would open up like a session for any DJs that want to come and either just jam or just hang out, and anybody and everybody would be allowed to come, or because I know he had a school here for a bit before he moved, and but I know a lot of times DJ Matt had opened up for like DJs that want to come and just like hang and do like some scratching, we call it like a Q&A where we put on a beat, and then somebody cuts 4 to 8 bars, and then another DJ would step in after and cut in like a 4 to 8 bar cue, like of scratch patterns, and that's the development of like Q&A. So when Mana left, we kind of just continued it. Me and a buddy of mine, Manzo, I don't know if he's watching, but he's the one that kind of is in the forefront of just kind of like getting like different DJs from Montreal. Like usually we come like together on a Sunday, and then we would just find like a place at a bar or somebody's house, and we would all just jam out and just kind of like learn from each other, or just kind of like jam with each other basically. So the whole concept of the whole and then it eventually it became like the Sunday scratch session mantra. Like we called the event and the crew the Sunday scratch session, because we're always meeting up on certain Sundays. But it's just an idea to like have all sorts of DJs, whether if you're an expert or a beginner, just to all kind of hang out and just kind of like jam with each other, learn from each other, watch each other's tricks or what have you. But it's just us having an excuse to hang out, you know what I mean?
Right.
But
is it a place for like kind of more beginners, or is it only like people who are? Because it sounds like you're talking about more established people in this.
Well, we try to invite like beginners, and usually we do have like up and coming or beginners or people who just want to learn to come and just hang with us. But 9 out of times it's just us like more I wouldn't say established, but just more kind of advanced DJs, just us hanging out and learning from each other. But also we've incorporated like musicians to jam with us.
Yes, yeah.
So we have drummers and keyboardists and like we do have like a bassist and guitarists that come and jam with us every so often. So but again, it's just the concept of the whole idea is just to kind of like have like a collective DJs just like hang out and just like learn from each other. Not to say that you could take a course and go to those DJs schools, which is fine, but it just is more kind of like an organic kind of feel, right? How to learn at least like different like either patterns or different cuts or different
So you've mentioned a few times like going to DJ school kind of thing. Is that like what is your, because you've been very diplomatic. You've been like, oh, you could go to school and whatever, but what is your take on that? Do you think
I'm just like, well, I look at these like I think the best example would be like Trebas, because I know they have DJing schools. Like okay, cool if you want to pay all that money. I'm not stopping you. You know what I mean? But it's just like like for me and a lot of us DJs, we learn from each other how to scratch or DJ, so just hanging with other DJs. I'm not saying like that because musicians, they go to whatever, like music school or whatever, to learn various instruments, which is fine. And I and maybe there is like a little club or something, or you can learn how to play the sax from various other saxophone players. But I'm just saying like with DJs, like I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I only learned enough to kind of, because I was interested in DJing, I just learned the fundamentals, and then I just picked everything up as I went along with DJing. So, but again, but like with the Sunday Scratch session or the crew or just various crews like all over Canada, like I just think for anybody that just wants to learn how to be a DJ or scratch DJ, I think a lot of times you don't always have to, you can look through videos and stuff like that, but at the same time, like you just reach out to different DJs. There's no harm in like asking or different tips and stuff like that, and then learn the fundamentals. Like I don't want to like really like crap on like any
right.
DJ
I
school
understand.
out there because like hey but
is it like a thing of like, well, if I could get hired, then I don't want to. You know what I mean?
I don't think I could be a teacher. I like telling people like I like teaching people the fundamentals, but I don't think I'd be a good like teacher in a sense because I don't have a lot of patience with a lot of times when I teach like young kids like just the basic baby scratch type,
right.
like with a beat going on, it's like a lot of times they just purposely like really like cut really fast to like break the needle, you know what I mean? So sometimes
Jesus.
it's just like they don't have like a learning tolerance, so it's like and that's where when I said like I get frustrated easily, I just like that's why I wouldn't. I usually do teach just the fundamentals and then just tell them like, look, either you can go to DJ school or there's another DJ you can learn from, but because for me I didn't necessarily. I just talked to like other DJs and I learned from my best bud. He was he was showing me the ropes, and then I asked him a bunch of questions, and then from there I learned from other DJs, and then I just kind of pieced everything together, and then there you go. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's also like there's different learning methods for different people. Obviously, you may not know this, but I didn't like not most. There's a lot of musicians that go to university and they study music and they do their 4 years, whatever. So I did 1 year and then I dropped out. So I didn't finish the whole program. So I'm kind of like I'm like in between both worlds in the sense that I can see that it works great for some people going to school. That's great, but I can also see that it doesn't work for some people and it's not the right fit at all, and I also will agree that there is some professional trade schools that are very profitable enterprises and don't really care about their students too much. And it's like, man, why are you spending crazy amounts on learning how to DJ when you could go talk to somebody and get lessons with them and pay a quarter, and also the teacher would be paid more, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like so it's almost like anyway, it works for some people and it's great, and it doesn't work for other people, and that's fine too.
I think it varies, like, but again, it's all up to that person, if they're, if they're very passionate or at least interested in whatever profession or if they're like musician wise, they want to learn a particular instrument or just be a DJ. I think it all varies on how you would like to approach it. So I just know for me, because I don't like spending a lot of money in general,
there's that Asian coming back. The Asian's coming. Actually, also just a side question. It could be a one word answer, but do you make beats at all?
I did, but I stopped. But I'm trying to get back into because I've been using. I used to just make beats to kind of scratch over.
Right. Okay.
The thing is, like, I have created beats, and I have them somewhere, but I just remember I just want to make a beat to like scratch over and kind of make like a little cassette or mixtape of me scratched, but it's like I'm not gonna make money off this because who's gonna listen to me just kind of wailing on a turntable for like 3 minutes? But I am getting back to at least making beats or at least making my own kind of like remixes. So
right.
I'm getting there.
Okay, yeah, I was just kind of curious because it's again this DJ thing of like, you know, you could be somebody who's a club DJ, you could be somebody who's a scratcher, you could also be somebody who's making tunes, you know, like these are all the same word used for many different things.
But I think a lot of DJs now are just naturally in tune to be a producer. So because the arrangement is there, it's probably different because you're actually making your own track. But in terms of arrangements of like mixing music together and stuff like that, and how you would like to approach it, I think it's just natural for a DJ to be a producer.
Right.
By any means, like a lot of times it's supernatural for like a house DJ to be a house like producer. So you know,
it makes sense.
Yeah.
And also sometimes depending on your approach, you know, to being a club DJ, you might be triggering things live, you might be really building the song live, you know. So naturally being a producer makes perfect sense. So I kind of want to switch to a totally different direction.
Go ahead.
Not that I'm not enjoying any of this. And actually I'll mention again, if people are listening and if they have any questions or whatever related to what we've been talking about, please throw them down. We're always taking questions. But I basically wanted to move into a totally different direction because you talked about a couple of things. So you talked about, so you are Filipino, and you mentioned that I think you mentioned that LA had great Filipino food. I happen to be wearing a new shirt. Let's see if I can get that onto the. Yeah, it's a.
I can't even see it. What are you wearing?
It's too small. It's a cup of noodle, curry cup of noodle right over on the chest. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. But I guess so. I'll start by telling a very brief story, which was the last time that I was in LA was with Pneumatic Massive. And the last day we were hanging out at this sort of friend of the band's place, and he was Filipino or is Filipino, and he casually mentioned that I wish I could remember the name of this dish, but he casually mentioned. Oh, actually, before I say any of this, so I'm for those who are watching and don't know, I'm Chinese. I'm not Filipino. However, my mom, who is also Chinese, grew up in the Philippines, so she speaks Tagalog. You know, so yeah. Anyway, but. So anyway, we're in LA. We're at this guy's place, and he's Filipino, and he casually mentions that there's a restaurant that has, and I can't remember the name of it right now, but the best fried pork. You know that I forget what it's called. Yes, lechon. Yes, lechon. That they have the best lechon. I can't pronounce it correctly. Yeah. But he mentions it casually, and I'm like, oh my God, we're going back to Montreal tomorrow. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna buy a thing of lechon and smuggle it onto the plane. And I totally did that. And all the while through, the guys were like making fun of, making all kinds of, they were making jokes like, oh, on va aller à l'aéroport, you know, pork. Yeah. They're making all these jokes all the way through. And I did manage to successfully smuggle the pork across the border. And then I had it with my mom the next day. I mean, it was cold, of course, it's not the same, but it was still pretty good. So I guess I'm assuming that you're into food, but I don't actually know. I just assume that most Asians are kind of into food.
Well, you could pretty much tell by looking at me that I'm a big guy. So
hey, that doesn't mean anything, man. That could be all kinds of things, you know. There's also another reason why I think you might be into food, and it's because you gave a 5-star review to Woodland Pizza. And for those who know, Woodland Pizza is a great pizza joint. They got a great pork chop dinner too.
Did I put a comment?
No, it was just 5-star Woodland Pizza. So I guess tell me a little bit about, or what are your favorite? Do you have favorite restaurants aside from Woodland? What's the story?
I don't know what. Well, I love Woodland. Oh, I used to live nearby there. I don't live in Verdun anymore. Right. But even then, sometimes I still go there. I love thick cheese type of pizza. Like from an oven, like an actual like pizza oven. Like I can't do. Like my best friend, he does Domino's and Pizza Hut. I can't do those type of pizzas anymore. I need like like I would, of course I would love wood oven type of pizza, but like pizza oven type of pizzas with like the thick cheese like oozing down your mouth type of pizza. But I think the closest thing to that to me would be Woodland pizza. I know there's other pizzas all over Montreal that it's really good. I just can't think of the top of my head because I'm looking at Woodland.
Right, yeah.
But I am a foodie at heart. I love if it's not music or movies, it's food. So a lot of times I'm not picky. Like I was raised at a family where I have to finish my plate or I get disowned, right? So but and a lot of times I wouldn't I'd just be picky on food, but now I'll just eat anything and everything. So even foods that I don't like I really do not like celery, but I'll eat it. You know what I mean? So, but I can't think of a particular restaurant at the top of my head that I really like.
I can maybe narrow it down a little bit in the sense of are there good Filipino restaurants in town? And if so, what would you recommend? Because I've asked this to different people with different answers. Some say, no, there aren't any. You got to get home cooked, So what's your take on that? Because there's also like some fancy ones and some perhaps more authentic ones, Anyway, go for it.
Okay, well, personally, homemade all the way.
Of course.
A lot of times, I think the Filipino community here in Montreal is pretty tight. So a lot of times we would go to whoever's house, and literally they would. I remember when I was younger, me and my family, we would meet up with other a lot of our friends and relatives who are Filipino, and they would do they would roast the pork in the back, and that's where you get fresh religion. So you would love it.
Oh my God, yeah.
The thing is with Filipinos, we love to cook too. So with pancit and adobo and stuff like that. So I'll never turn away from a homemade meat, a Filipino dish.
Of course.
I know there's a lot of, I can't think of the names, but if you go to Codeneige, the Cary, that area, there's a lot of I know on Van Horn Boulevard alone there's a few Filipino restaurants that are really good. I wish I knew their names. I'm so sorry. I know you might be talking about the in terms of fancy a Filipino dish. I think you're talking about Juniors. It's on I think Notre Dame.
Sure.
Yeah. It's owned by the
DJ
Tootie and Jojo Flores.
Yes.
Shout out to Tootie. I'm not gonna lie, I haven't been there. Me
neither.
I want to go. I just eventually I will. But I can't say no to I believe this. I believe the food's great there. I think all Filipino dishes are amazing. Right. I might hate one or two, but I can't think of any on the top of my head.
Right.
But
well, it's one of these things where the Filipino food is one of the few. Well, I mean, there are a few, but it's one of the Asian cuisines that has not hit the mainstream. Right? People know what sushi is, people know what ramen is, people know what Chinese food is, people know what Thai food is, maybe, Malaysian, Indonesian, they don't know so much, but they definitely don't know Filipino food,
You gotta go to San Francisco, man. It's
well, that's it, yeah. San Francisco, I've been, and I know you've been as well. Vancouver also has a big Asian community. But I just remembered I actually looked it up. The name of the place on Van Horn is Bahay Kubo. Okay. For those, so have you been to Bahay Kubo or no?
I'm pretty sure I have. So I've been to a lot of most to all of the Filipino restaurants in the Codeneige area. So
right,
for sure. But the thing is, too, I love all types of. I love Chinese food.
Right. Yeah.
Actually, I should ask you since I like to hit a lot of the Chinese restaurants in, of course, Chinatown. But is there a particular one that you like?
Well, I mean, I think well, actually, let me kind of sort of talk about the Coteneige thing a little bit, because for those who don't know Bahay Kubo, it's a very sort of like it's food in like under heat lamps, you know what I mean? So it's not necessarily like fresh cooked for you right there, but if you're looking for like a quick cheap, you know, meal, it could be a good place to check out. Just because I don't want people to think and confuse it with Junior and think it's like a fancy thing. And I'll say that look, obviously we know the guys at Junior and all this, and I haven't been there either, but I'm also kind of like, I'm not necessarily into like expensive fancied up street food, you know what I mean? Like there's also Three Monkeys, which is in Verdun, which is I think it's what style of cuisine is that? I can't remember.
It's my God. But have you been there?
I went once, and it was good and all, but I'm like, holy crap, was that ever expensive? Just like the like, I mean, it's tasty and all this, but like the size of the portion for what you're, you know, it's like the first time you go to like, you know, it's a plate that's easily $50 a person, you know, to have a meal. And I can't quite remember right now. Let's say it's Malaysian food or Malaysian street food or something like that. Like that's not the price of Malaysian street food, right? Like that's not, these are things that cost like 25 cents for like a huge, you know. Anyway, so that's kind of my beef with that. At the same time, you know, I've heard it said that it's kind of like, it's almost again a racism thing of like, why is it that like Vietnamese food cannot be high end, but Japanese food can? You know what I mean? So, and I'm like, okay, maybe there's some, you know, and maybe that's true of Filipino food too, that people are like, oh, that can only be cheap food. That can't be like gussied up and made expensive, you know? Anyway, whatever. That's a whole, or do you have something to say about that? Or
well, I look, if I don't have a problem, you know, shelling out money as long as it's good food.
As long as it's good. Exactly. I agree.
But I'm in the same vein as you where I'm not going to always be willing to shell out X amount of dollars for something that could be high end, where I can probably get the same thing if my parents or my grandma or any of my relatives making it, and it'd probably be just as good or better. Like, no offense to any of those like high end restaurants, but but again, I love food, so
sure. Yeah.
At this point, like I would just say like I would do anything to get like eat sushi right now because it's been a while. You know what I mean?
Right.
But yeah.
I mean, it's. I guess what I'm saying is like, you know, if I go to some fancy gussied up, any style, any whatever, you know, any place, and it's like a stewed chicken or something. It's like, well, why is this plate $35? Like, what is it that is special about this, you know? And if there was something, it's like, oh, these ingredients were brought in, or this thing was slow cooked over like 48 hours. Like, if there's some kind of thing, sure. But if there isn't, then it's just like, why is it, you know? And I don't think it's always legitimate to do that. But anyway, to answer your question, in terms of Chinese food, if you look at, I think there's like 3 main neighborhoods, which would be Chinatown, Côte des Neiges, and my old neighborhood, which is like near Concordia, you know, which some people refer to as Chinatown West, or Chinatown 2. In terms of Côte des Neiges, I can't really talk about Côte des Neiges Chinese food without mentioning Kam Shing, because I think it's like
automatic, like, to me.
Yeah, but I mean, but some people don't know, and I was there like when as a kid when that place first opened, and we were shocked because we were driving. I don't think we were even going there. We were going to somewhere because we often would go to Côte des Neiges to eat. There was a lot of restaurants. There still are a lot of restaurants. And we drove past it, and there was a lineup outside of the door until the end of the block. And it's like, when have you ever seen that for a restaurant? People waiting in line for a restaurant, you know, like a movie premiere or something. Okay, you know. So we had to try it, and it was, of course, very good and very inexpensive. Great duck, you know, great lobster. It also is like kind of like they have a lot of like Canadian Chinese food, which I'm not saying anything bad about. Like if you're into you know, spare rib, like sweet spare ribs and stuff like that, I know that they do all that kind of stuff too, you know. But in terms of other Chinese food in Côte des Neiges, I'm not really sure actually. I'd have to do a little research.
I don't really know any other ones other than Kam Shing's.
Yeah, I mean, it's so like, you know, but there's also, I'll mention this, you know, there's some, well, we were talking about like Filipino food and like places that are maybe not going full fancy and super expensive, but are kind of like I had for the first time, I forget the name of the dish, but it's where it's the, I think it's banana leaf. or a different kind of leaf, and then there's like grilled meats on top of it. Do you know what I'm talking about?
It's a kamayan. It's like a.
Okay.
It's this what you're talking about. Like they would set up a table, and then they would place like banana leaves, and they would put like different types of dishes. Well, meats and rice and
vegetables and rice. Yeah, exactly.
I've done it, but I've done it like at home type of thing.
As a family.
As a family. I've never done it where at a restaurant. Because I think Three Monkeys does that, right?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe. Yeah.
Of course, I know Junior does it.
Okay.
Tried it yet, but
okay. So I've had that at a place in Côte-des-Neiges, and I've been to Bahia Kubo, and there's a few places that kind of like try to fancy things up a little bit, but not excessively so. And then in terms of Chinatown, I mean, I don't think I have any like special like insight. I mean, obviously, well, actually, I'll mention Dobie and Andy because they used to cater at Cypher, and they're good friends of ours and all this. And for those who don't know, it's kind of like a Chinese diner, It's kind of like you get rice with a couple of choice of meat and vegetables, and they have other things. They actually open really, or they used to open really early for like a breakfast crowd, as well as lunch and dinner.
Yeah.
And then I'll have to mention Cam Fung for the dim sum. There's also Ruby Rouge.
My go-to ever since I was young, and it's like a family thing. It's Monant.
Oh yeah, of course. Monant is great. Yeah.
That's usually where I end up going. If not, I usually go the cheap buffet route and go to Jade.
Oh yeah, Jade Garden. Jade Garden. Yeah.
Oh
I mean, I never went to Jade Garden as a kid, but I don't think we did. But I've definitely gone as an adult because I think. Oh man, okay, this is an embarrassing story, but maybe you can relate to this. I remember going once because I had a craving for like crappy Chinese food, basically, and. I mean, I use the term crappy like kind of liberally, but so I was like, I'm going to Jade Garden. I really want like some chicken wings and some like all this stuff, right? So I go there and it's like 8:45 or something, and I look at the menu, and after 9, their price drops. It's like the late night price, right? And it's raining, but it's not raining extremely, but it's raining. So I just stand outside in the rain for 15 minutes to wait for the price to drop before going in. This is ultimate like frugal Asian shit. But man, I mean, like they have duck and stuff in the buffet. Like it's not bad.
I like their selections of. I think I remember liking their soups. I've always been a big fan of their kind of their pad thai. Even though I've had better, of course.
Yeah.
But it's good, but kind of generic, like Chinese food, which I enjoy. Like I really do not. I like they have their selection of sushi, and I know that
I've never touched that.
It's bad, but I'll still eat it because I kind of like it. I like it in my soups. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So I'll eat it. I don't know why I like their particular type of sushi in my soup. So my like wonton or my chicken corn soup, but you know what I mean? But that's usually my go-to if I like in the same vein as you. Like if I just want like something kind of like I can get it and not wait for my food to come. I'll just go to a buffet.
Right.
That usually particular one I go to if I'm in like that area. So.
Right.
Yeah, but Monan's is probably my go-to Chinese restaurant that me and the family we used to go to often. So
right. I sometimes go to Beijing also. It's like there's some dishes that are really good there, and then some that are just terrible, and it's really a shame. But that's common in many restaurants and Chinese restaurants and whatever. You just got to know which things to order.
Yeah.
Actually, were you? I can't remember if you were at the band dinner. Were you at the band dinner that we did?
The one last year.
The one at PM.
Yeah, I was there.
Oh, you were there, yeah. So that's getting to like my third location, which is Chinatown 2 or whatever.
Yeah.
PM I think is really good for like like Cantonese style, but also, you know, I mean, I like meat obviously, but I also like vegetables, and they have quite a variety of vegetable dishes that I find that you don't have in a lot of other restaurants, which is cool. And it's I do like it a lot. In that area, there's a lot of Szechuan style places and a lot of the northern Chinese. There's Canbai used to be really good, but I think they changed to like, I think they may have changed to a different restaurant now. But there's still cuisine Szechuan on Saint-Mathieu, which is. Do you like Szechuan cuisine? Have you had Szechuan?
I don't know. I love Szechuan cuisine. I think it maybe that particular restaurant is usually my. I've gone to where I actually enjoyed like Szechuan cuisine style or like dishes. So because I've had like, because I don't besides like certain like restaurants in Chinatown, I don't know any other particular Szechuan places that are really good.
Right.
My mind, but that area, I usually end up going to like is it 5-star noodles or 5 noodles?
Oh yeah, star noodles.
Yes,
Star noodles.
There you go.
Yeah.
I really like their peanut butter chicken there. I really do.
Okay. Star Noodles is one of the OG like fast food Chinese places, you know? Like I again remember when they first opened, and I think my dad was like going on about the place, and you know, we went and it was like, okay, this is closest thing you'll get to like a hawker style thing in like Hong Kong or something. But good restaurant too. Yeah, I'm trying to think what else in that area. You know what? There's that restaurant on de Maisonneuve, the Korean one, that opened fairly recently that always has a huge lineup. And I finally went, and I was really not impressed. Really? I really don't think. Yeah, I don't quite know why they're as popular as they are. I mean, there's like Mon Ami, which is a chain. I think is much better. Like, I'm surprised that this place has the following that it does.
Really?
I mean, everything is subjective, but that's my take on it.
I didn't really have any interest of checking out place. I want to go maybe one day, but is there anything in particular that like sets you off? Like,
no, I just thought it was very generic. Like it wasn't like, I don't know. I just had some. I think we had like what do you call it? The like maybe we had like a kimchi jjigae and like just standard Korean dishes, and it was just like, well, this is fine, but I'm not waiting in a huge line for this. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, especially when there's other Korean restaurants right around the corner that there's no lineup for that are just as good or if not better.
A lot of times, if I'm at a restaurant and I'm waiting in line, I'm always thinking to myself, this better be worth it, because I usually a lot of times when I come out, I disappointed. It's like it's to the point where I just want to cry because I spent all this money and this time, and this is not satisfying me. So
you have a very similar thing that I have, is that like one bad meal is just like, that was just wasted time. I just lost out on a potentially great meal. Yeah,
because you could have maybe spent all that time and effort and money on somewhere else that is better. You know what I mean? But but you play the game of going to restaurants and a lot of times. But have you, like, since the whole pandemic, have you gone to a restaurant or eaten at a restaurant?
Takeout, yes, but not dining experience. I definitely don't feel any pressing need for that.
I actually did. Me and my brother did make an effort to actually go to a sushi restaurant somewhere in Point Claire. It's not as bad because they kind of put they put restrictions. Actually, when you go in with this particular sushi place that we went to, they check your temperature, right?
Awesome.
With the machine in your head, and I was so afraid because I know I'm good, but there could always be something that could trigger and say, oh, you can't come in because you have your thing is high. But luckily, I was able to go in. And and then the setup was pretty good because it was kind of still keeping a distance. So, but again, if you don't need to go to a restaurant, you don't. You just I think one of the things I do have to admit is like of course I do takeout and stuff like that. But I also like me and my brother, kind of with my brother and my pops. We cook, right? So we just end up cooking more and more,
right?
Because we just appreciate like a good homegrown meal at home versus, like you said, going to a restaurant and then you spend shelling all this money. Like it's a good and a bad type of thing. So like I do miss going to restaurants, but at the same time it's like I do appreciate, I do like the fact of just cooking my own steak. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
I mean, it's like restaurants. It's like it's convenience, definitely. In fact, you could always say that it's convenience in the sense of like, you could technically make your own sushi and go get sushi grade rice or sushi grade fish and all this. But like, if you just want like 3 pieces of salmon, 3 pieces of tuna, like you can't. You go either buy the whole fish, you know what I mean? Like, so there's certain things that are just don't make sense to make at home.
You either go all you can eat or you go home. You just, like I can't do I don't necessarily want to say that I won't go to a nice fancy sushi joint because I have, and there's a lot of good ones in Vancouver when I was there.
Absolutely,
but the thing is, it's like I just know with all you can eat, it's like at least if I don't eat as much, at least then I have the option to get more if I want to. You know what I mean? It's the same thing with like buffets. It's like at least then I have the option to just get more if I want to versus like ordering something and it's there and then it's like maybe I should have gotten more.
Right. So here's a very important question. So pre-pandemic, what was your favorite all-you-can-eat sushi place or favorite all-you-can-eat sushi places, and what were your favorite other buffets?
Oh my God. I know I have to mention Crystal on on St. Catherine. Yeah, but there was
like that's in Westmount kind of thing.
Yeah,
or?
In Westmount area. That was a pretty good joint. There was one on like Chinatown 2. It closed. And like there was like I don't know, there was like 2 sushi joints like one beside each other on the corner
on the corner of St. Matthew or something.
Yeah, not the sushi on the corner, but there was another one that was next to it. I thought that was a really good sushi joint, and then it closed. It became a bakery, I think, or something.
Right. Yeah.
But
I thought they were the same. Like I thought they were owned by the same people. Or you don't think so?
I thought so too, but I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe decide, hey, maybe we'll just cut our losses and just concentrate on one.
Yeah, maybe.
But I don't have any particular like restaurants that I miss besides those 2, like per se. But
I got to tell you, in terms of all you can eat sushi. There's a spot on Saint Denis. I'm trying to pull it up right now.
Is it Saint Denis Sushi? Is that
I think it's called Tayo, and it might have previously been Saint Denis Sushi or something like that. Okay. I think it's called Tayo from what I can find online. Okay. And I mean, all of these places are basically the same, right? I mean, they're not all you can eat sushi places. There's not a huge difference between them, but Tayo is like a little step better, I think. So they use the iPad ordering system kind of thing, or the tablet ordering system. Mm-hmm. But it's better than the other tablet ordering systems I've seen. And you order everything. Like a lot of these tablet places, you order everything, but then you got to call a waiter over, and they got to like verify your order before putting it through. But this one, you order everything, and you just hit the button. Mm-hmm. And then they start bringing you food, so you don't have to like wait for a waiter and all that, and it just starts coming. And even at the end, you hit a button on the tablet that says like I want to get the bill. Yeah. So like you don't really have the delay, the natural delays that are involved with a human waiter, and they do have human waiters. Don't get me wrong. But and then I found that there was a lot of variety, and they gussy things up in the presentation a little bit with like they have some like smoke, like they'll put the sushi and there'll be a little smoke, like a dry ice smoke coming out and stuff like that, But I check it out. I mean, like I said, I think all these places are kind of the same, but like check out that one in Saint Denis. I think might be a tiny step forward better.
I recently was by Saint Denis last weekend, and it's because they closed it off, right? So there's no cars going through, but that area is dead. Like there's hardly any
I'm sure.
around. Like, so maybe if the restaurant's open, maybe I'll have my luck and maybe check it out. But yeah, I don't know. What's the last time you've been downtown?
Well, like I said, I've gotten takeout and stuff like that. Although actually, yeah, was it yesterday or? Yeah, I think it was yesterday. I went to Steve's to pick up to get some equipment, and then I also passed by. Oh, I went to the Apple store.
Oh yeah.
And because I'm thinking about buying a tablet, and I want to kind of look at some iPads and stuff like that. Like I wanted to see how big they were and like what they felt like. Like you really have to see that in person. But the Apple store was like amazing. So they had this little like village outside the store where they would like pre-screen you kind of before going in, and of course they took your temperature and all that kind of thing. But like there was a lineup, and then there's like security guy that greets you, and then they break you into two lines, one whether you have an appointment, one if you don't, and then it was really quite involved in like, well, what department are you interested in, so maybe like per department they have like only 3 people in the tablet department, or only, you know what I mean, like they kind of I'm assuming that's why they were asking those kinds of questions. But anyway, it was very impressive, but obviously not every company is able to, to do that. But honestly, downtown was not, that area of downtown didn't seem like horribly dead, but of course there's less people in the store and all this, but it's, anyway, obviously this is a very difficult time for businesses. Like we're not performing at all. We're not getting any work in, and Bootlegger is reopened, but I believe they either have no live shows or they have very limited live shows, like two people on stage kind of thing. And some of the jazz clubs are doing like trios and very small groups, but it's difficult, unquestionably. But back to important matters. So buffets. So I got your take on the sushi. So what's your take on the buffet situation? Best buffets.
I know a lot of buffets that I used to go, like Vichy's and stuff. They closed.
Like closed, like forever?
I guess. Because there was like a close sign. To the one in LaSalle and the one in the South Shore. But those I remember that was kind of a go-to because it was like super cheap and you actually had a good selection of food. But again, nothing beats like a typical Chinese buffet. But man, I can't. I guess because there's a Chinese buffet in LaSalle, Dragon Dar or Golden Dragon. It used to be what I forgot what it's called before, but I don't even know if it's even open. But and whatever, you get these slews of like Chinese buffets. Like there used to be one on Stanley. I don't know if you remember.
Yes.
It was like right across from that parking lot there, and it had like a really
like Stanley and René Lévesque.
It was like below. It was like above. It was between René Lévesque and St. Catherine.
Yes.
I used to go there a lot because I like them. Actually, their sushi selection was
Fu Lam. Was it Fu Lam?
I don't think it was Fu. I think it was Fu
No.
Lam. But to be honest with you, I don't remember the name. I just remember that particular day, and I remember the waiter that used to be. There was a waiter that was there. I forgot his name, but he used to work there like forever.
Okay.
But I used to like that, and it was always not too busy, but it was not like dead either. So if you didn't have to wait a lot for like to get on the buffet tray or get a table, but yeah, I remember going to that particular one. But now it's like the only buffet I can think of right now is Vichy's that I used to go to a lot prior to the pandemic lockdown. So. Yeah.
I mean, buffets are going to be like the last restaurant to reopen. Like clearly, how can you, unless they change it into sit down, like you order what you want. There's no way you can.
That's kind of what I was thinking, or I was thinking like cafeteria style. That's what I was talking with a few friends, brother. But regardless, it's like even the price too. It's like I just you're just better off just, I'm like, again, I know I'm promoting like eating at home a lot and big businesses. I'm sorry, but it's just like, with this like day and age, it's like you're just better off just being at home. And the thing is, like, I do want to promote like restaurants and bars to like thrive, especially in Montreal downtown area. But given with like on these questionable times and uncertain, like, things don't moving forward, it's like, no. But I do miss the simpler days where I could just go to a restaurant and just eat like a pig and potentially spend a lot of money there, and you know what I mean. Oh.
Well, it's I feel you. Like it's. I feel bad for all of these places. Some of them are actually total shitholes and whatever. But like, but I mean, some of them are fine, and some of them are totally fine. And it's just like, how could you possibly plan for this? How could you possibly, and how can you, like these businesses in particular, which are going to be like, even they're going to be. Like, okay, so I guess what I'll say simply is that this is why, like, I'm kind of I did a live stream the other day talking about the pandemic infection numbers.
I didn't watch a bit of it yet.
Oh, okay, yeah. So like one of the things I was saying in that is that I think really like the goal has to be getting the numbers to zero, and there's many countries that have done this. And the thing about that is, how can you possibly have like these buffets reopen? Like these are businesses that could not reopen in any form. Unless the numbers are at zero. Like there's all kinds of businesses like this where it's like even Cypher. I'm like, it's one thing to do a show in a bar, but what we're doing is having random people coming up on stage, talking into the same mic, grabbing the same mic, playing the same instruments. Like, how can you possibly do that without zero infection rate?
The thing is, I feel more for a lot of the places that I DJ, like bootlegger. I know like a lot of places that I DJ or used to DJ that I feel for, because I know those people. Like the big one, of course, like there's McLean's that I like. Shout out to McLean's, whoever is watching out there. But like I feel for those people because I know those people and I DJ there. If I'm not DJing at Cypher, I'm DJing there on Thursdays. You know what I mean? And then like there's just other places that I grown accustomed to these people, and it's like you feel for them. But again, you also feel for the business. You feel for like, because I love being downtown. I spend all my time downtown, just like checking out shows or seeing what's going on or meeting up with people and stuff. And I kind of miss that kind of downtown life. But even then, it's because again, you like, for me, it's like cause I used to be like, oh man, this band's playing here, or this artist is playing here. I gotta go check them out. And like now, it's like that's pretty much put on the shelves for the time being. But like hopefully something will come out of this and will thrive beyond once everything is gets to, at least somewhat to normalcy. But that's gonna take some time for sure.
Yeah, well, you know what? I'm going to bring up, because this is totally in line with our conversation right now. There's a question that we got from Codename Lyra, and the question was, "What's your favorite venue to play in Montreal?" Obviously, not currently, but what is your favorite venue? And hopefully that venue will continue to exist after the pandemic. But tell us, what's your answer to that?
I'm trying to think. I remember I used to rave about DJing at Club Soda. I remember I was opening up for I don't remember what artist, but we were opening up for Method Man. But I thought the venue was cool. What's that venue at Notre Dame?
The theater.
The Virgin. Is it Virgin something, or no? It's not Virgin. But that,
like near Joe Beef and stuff.
Yeah. I remember. I think it was like 2 years ago. I opened up for a Daft Punk cover band or cover artist, and I just remember that venue was just pretty cool. It was small and intimate. I like those smaller, intimate venues, just because you can.
It was the Corona Theater.
It's a Corona Theater. There you go.
Yes.
I just remember like that because it had kind of that old school feel, but it was cool because it was intimate because you could see everybody, but not to the point where you can make out who they are type of thing. Because, but it's just, but I just remember I was opening up. Yeah, I was opening for a Daft Punk cover band, and I remember the equipment was just like crapping out on me. So I had to pretend that I was actually DJing, but really I was just kind of pressing buttons and playing stuff off of my computer. And yet people were still were pretty cool and dancing and stuff. So I just remember just like finishing that set and just with really kind of, it was one of those proud moments for me because like I took that sort of like situation that was like crappy and then kind of made it to actually something that was pretty cool and everybody enjoyed. So it's like I remember so that venue too I do miss. I'm pretty sure I'm missing other venues too that I considered that I liked, but I just ultimately Corona Theater and Club Soda is like the two highlights. That I highlights that I like for sure.
Yeah. Whoops, I just had a little technical glitch here. I hope that all of these venues continue. You know, we're of course starting to hear about venues closing because they don't know when things are going to restart.
I'm hoping at least some of these venues would survive from this, but it's hard to say at this point.
Yeah, so I'm kind of I'm looking at the time. It's 11:30, and I'm trying to figure out where we should go with this because probably we should start wrapping it up a little bit. But I'm kind of. So I know that you've traveled a little bit. You've been to different places, like I know you've been to New Orleans, San Francisco, different places. We could talk a little bit about that. But I'm also kind of curious to talk to you about movies. And I'm not sure which direction to go in. So how about?
Because I host a movie. Well, we're on hiatus right now, but I do co-host a movie podcast with my friend Phil. If Phil's watching, hey, what's up, Phil? So we talk about. Is it
called movies? L on Movies?
Well, that's my alias name, but I should delete that.
No, then I wouldn't have been able to find this.
Right. Okay. But by all means, we can talk about movies.
Actually, you know what? I'm going to combine both subjects and tell you a little story. So I've only been to San Francisco once, but it was for my honeymoon 2-3 years ago, something like that. I can't remember when. That's how I don't remember these things. Anyway, but we were just walking around randomly, and we walked by a movie theater, and it said that they were playing The Room. Do you know The Room?
Oh God, yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
it said that they were playing The Room, and I was like, oh, like I've heard of this movie. It's supposed to be like really bad, but like the worst movie of all time. But it's also like hilarious and whatever. And we really didn't know anything more than that, and Katie hadn't really heard anything about it. And then we looked closer, and they said that the director will be there at the showing tonight. And we're like, maybe, I don't know, maybe this is where. So anyway, we ended up going. We talked to it like somebody who worked there, and they're like, you should definitely come because like the director's gonna be there, whatever. And we're almost sold out on tickets, but you can get them now, and da da da. And then when we finally said, okay, we're gonna get 2 tickets, they said, okay, now go buy some plastic forks. And we're like, what the hell are you talking about? So anyway, so we did that, and we did go see it, and it was amazing because for those who don't know The Room, it is one of the worst movies of all time. It's kind of like a Rocky Horror Picture Show type of thing where it's so bad it's so good. But
Tommy Wiseau, right?
Tommy Wiseau, yeah, exactly. Yeah. But it's also filmed and takes place in San Francisco. So this is where it became like a huge cult phenomenon. Like when you see Rocky Horror Picture Show, there's a lot of skits that people do with the movie, So I have seen it also in Montreal, and it was not nearly as good in Montreal because a lot of those skits have not yet made their way. Like people, it's not like there's a guidebook, right? So it was amazing seeing it in San Francisco. So anyway, I'm kind of tying a couple of interests together, movies and whatever. Have you seen The Room? Have you seen that movie?
I saw it. Okay, interesting enough, I knew about this before. Well, I didn't know. Like, I just remember watching it on TV. I think it was on like a showcase or something. I don't remember what channel.
Wow. Okay.
And I don't know why I was watching it. I just remember like, why is this so bad? And then I just thought nothing of it. And then maybe fast forward a year or whatever, like, I saw it on TV again, and I remember the movie, but I didn't remember the title or the structure. I just remember like, particular scenes.
Right.
Of course, like the famous one is when he's coming out of the and the roof there, and he's like throwing that water bottle into the floor there. It's like,
oh yeah.
And then it's like, of course the famous one's like, why are you tearing me apart, Lisa? You know what I mean?
Yes, yeah.
Like, I just remember, and then I just slowly heard about the phenomenon that is of a train wreck of a movie, but then I watch it only because it's, I watch it occasionally too, just because it's like, it's one of those, it's like a bad good movie. Like, you watch it because you feel like you can do better with this movie if you were a director.
Oh, interesting. Okay, yeah.
But it has that appeal to like, but the thing is, I can't watch it all the time, but I do have those moments where it's like, oh, I really want to watch a bad movie. So this is kind of one of those movies that I'm like, oh, because it's like, and the thing is like, but the more you know about this movie, the more you kind of wonder like the behind the scenes. It's like, how did he fund this money?
Right.
How did he fund this movie? It's like, why is he making this movie? And it's like, does he have any, like, where is he actually from, and what how old is he, and like, can he actually write? Or
so you have gone down the rabbit hole of like watching some documentaries or whatever.
No, that's it. And I wish I could have read, like, there's a book out there about the making of this movie. Oh, the
Greg Sestero book, or
the Greg. Yeah, I didn't read the book. I saw the movie, of course. The Disaster Artist.
Exactly.
I should maybe make an effort to read the book, but it's I wish I maybe would have, if I was in San Francisco at the time, or if they were ever doing the room screening, I think I would have loved to maybe see it in the big screen and go through the motions and witness it. I would even love to maybe even.
Wait, hold on a second. So have you never seen it in a theater with other people?
No, I never did.
Oh my God, dude, it's a completely different experience.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. You have to. I mean, I don't know if you're planning on going back to San Francisco, if that's the place that you.
Trust me, I'm going back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then actually, like, I would look it up in advance and see if there's a screening, because that was insane. And it was a midnight screening, so obviously it's like, people are a little crazier at that point. Although who knows, the next time we'll be able to go to the States, but that's a separate, separate issue. Yeah, dude, you have to see that with other people. So many sketches, and oh my God, yeah, really, it's a different experience. I'm gonna keep on this conversation, but I'll just say real quick, Leon said, you guys are awesome, truly enjoyed your conversation, stay safe and healthy, guys. Vincent, hope to meet you sooner rather than later. And Alex, bro, check you later, have a great evening, brother. So he's signing off.
I'll call you tomorrow, Lay.
But yeah, so anyway, not disaster artist, The Room, it's a classic, great, horribly good bad movie, bad good movie, whatever.
Like, it's a movie that it's funny, but you can't laugh. You just smirk and like hissing at times, just kind of like, why is this movie, how does this movie ever been made? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it really is. And I mean, there's but this is really a reach, because I don't imagine that you do, but do you by any chance watch Red Letter Media on YouTube?
Red Letter Media. No.
So they're a group.
It sounds familiar though.
It sounds familiar. So they're a group of guys that basically do different kind of movie reviews and all this kind of thing, but they became famous like many years ago. Well, whenever the first prequel movie came out, Star Wars prequel movie, Phantom Menace, when that came out, they put out like back then nobody was doing this, and they put out like a 3-part YouTube video that's like 6 hours long or 4 hours long or something like that, breaking down why it was a bad movie, like breaking down every aspect of it, you know. And now, of course, everybody does that. But back then it was like legendary, and it has like, I don't know, 10 million views or something like that. But one of the things they do is a segment called Best of the Worst, and basically they take like they sit down and watch like 3 really bad movies. Like usually they're on like VHS tape or on Betamax or, you know, some or even, you know, Blu-ray or something. But they, you know, these really bad, like sometimes they're kung fu movies, sometimes they're like monster horror movies, whatever. But they watch these, and it's just like you watch these things, you're like, how did this get made? Why did they do this way, you know? But I think the thing with The Room is it's like, but this actually had like a huge budget, you know, like to make this happen. Like
it was like 3 million, right?
It was crazy. Yeah. You know, it was insane.
Like in terms of like 3 million is not a lot compared to like other blockbusters.
Sure.
But again, $3 million is $3 million. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and it's like, again, it's like where did he fund this? Like, where did he get this money? So it's like the backstory is more interesting than anything to me. So it's like, but I don't know. I would like to meet. Well, the thing is, I can't meet celebrities. I have a kind of like a but I think I would make an effort to at least meet Tommy Wiseau.
Right.
Just try to see if I can get answers because I'm curious. Like, you know what I mean?
I kind of think you can't, just because he's been doing it for so long and he's been asked that question so many times, you know. But I can say that I actually got to. Although I didn't talk to him, but I did get to see Tommy Wiseau in the flesh. Like I was in the same room with him, which is pretty wild. But anyway, and we didn't know, it's not like we had seen this and we're like cult, you know, into the cult of this thing. So anyway, whatever. So let me move into maybe a different direction in terms of the movies thing. But I'm curious what your favorite Marvel movie is. What's your favorite MCU movie?
Oh my god! Okay.
Actually, how about favorite and least favorite MCU movie?
I wrote a list of me and my friends.
Really?
Wrote a list of the best. I don't think I have it anymore. I think I deleted it, but I think at least for hold on, let me see if I deleted the list. But I love Marvel movies because, of course, growing up, watching cartoons and reading comic books. And also too, like doing like these pictures that you're posting up, it was just kind of me, like, you know, because I had so much free time. I just decided to make name pictures for no particular reason other than just my own amusement, right? So no, but as far as like I deleted the list. Oh no, I have it. Okay, I'll give you the top 5. And I don't even know why I'm addressing this, but I said Infinity Wars, Endgames, Captain America's Winter Soldier, The Avengers, and then Iron Man.
As the top 5.
That's my top 5, okay. Yes. So, but again, I can even the worst ones I'll still watch because it's a Marvel movie.
So, what would be your worst 5? Okay, or just the couple of the worst. Like, what are your least favorite?
Well, I luckily the list. So what I said the worst was Thor 2, and then Iron Man 3, and then Iron Man 2, and then Guardians 2, and then Ant-Man 1.
Wait, you didn't like Ben Kingsley? I forget the name of the character
in a Mandarin in Iron Man 3? Yeah, I just thought it was a little bit of a cop out. But you
mean the fact that he wasn't the real Mandarin?
No, real Mandarin. I liked how I kind of liked the direction they were going, and my favorite director was Shane Black. Excuse me. He did like Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, and he wrote the original Predator movie.
Oh wow! Okay,
that goes to show how much I know about movies. But I was kind of disappointed with that one, so I just kind of dropped it down to my top 5. And then, like, my last one was, like, the Avengers Age of Ultron.
Is your least or sorry, that was least favorite?
It's in my least favorite in terms of
it's weak. It's definitely weak.
The,
I mean, sorry, go ahead.
The craziest thing is because I collect action figures, and I have the
Really?
Ultron Mark Select figurine, which is
Right.
it's still in the box because I'm trying to that's my retirement right there. But I just remember watching that movie, and I tried to like it, and then watching it over and over, I'm just like,
Right.
it could be better.
Yeah, I think Ultron is definitely one of the weakest ones, especially like it's a very interesting character that is just is a big strong robot. That's all he is. And he makes other robots. I found it interesting. Like for me, one of my top is Civil War. I'm surprised that that's not in your top.
It's in the middle pack.
Right, for you, it's in the middle.
I like it, and I actually just watched it like a couple of days ago. Because I don't know if it was on TV or something, but I can watch it again. I can watch it over and over. It's
sure.
I just like just other Marvel movies that I liked before that I would watch like literally I've watched like Infinity Wars and Endgames like multiple times just to nitpick on the movies. Like if I really like a movie, I'll watch it over and over just to nitpick little things, right?
Right.
So,
right.
And with those two, it's not hard to nitpick, but I usually gravitate towards movies just because I did work at a I was a supervisor for a movie theater for a good couple of years, and then afterwards I worked at a film studio. I was in the rental department, but we worked at a studio. It was like located in LaSalle, and it's like I learned the ins and outs of like the behind the scenes, so like working grip and stuff like that. And I did kind of volunteer to do grip work, and then I realized that that's just not for me. So I love movies. I think I would have loved to maybe be a director or even write a script or something like that. I did attempt to write a script, but it wasn't great. So I'll just stick to like watching movies, and then maybe one day become a movie critic. I don't know, but
there you go.
If DJing doesn't follow through, it'd be food and movie critic.
Right. Well, actually, you could combine the movies and music. I remember I wonder whether it was Microtone Kitchen. It might have been, but some DJ crew in Montreal did a live soundtrack to Metropolis by Fritz Lang. Do you know Metropolis?
Yes, I know.
Like the first sci-fi. Yeah. So they did like a live soundtrack. It was fucking amazing. It was so cool. It wasn't like improvised. Like clearly they had worked it out. You know what I mean? Like for each scene and everything. It was incredible thing, and of course perfect because it's already a silent movie. So you just need to provide that other part, which would have been a piano player messing around. I'm
kind of curious to see who did it.
Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna look it up let's just look it up because it's really it was Metropolis, or I should say Fritz Lang.
I didn't even know that was something that was done a few years ago in Montreal. But that's a kind of really neat concept to just take I guess a silent movie or some sort of movie on that same vein and just kind of make it your own soundtrack. But yeah, wow. I guess that's something that'd be. But I've also like while you're looking this up, I also do have kind of like an interest to maybe doing a score for a movie one day.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like Kid Koala did it for Baby Driver, and like that was a pretty nifty score. That
really?
Yeah.
I just saw Baby Driver. I just saw it like last week or something.
It's a great movie.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
But yeah.
Although my one criticism is it's almost a little too slick. Do you know what I mean? Like it could have been like the musical choices were like kind of a little obvious, and stuff like that, and it's like it could have been like a maybe a cooler indie-ish type of thing, but I mean, look, you got to make money. It's not like they don't want to make money, make their investment back,
Well, because the director is Edgar Wright, and he did a lot.
Right, of course, yeah.
And then I know he had a concept of making something where the music sets the tone of the movie. So, and I think this is what kind of the concept that he was going through, at least for this type of heist movie that he was going
Right.
through.
Yeah.
But I kind of get what you're saying. Like, it's a little too slick. Maybe you want a little bit of kind of some griminess to it, like
A
most,
little, yeah.
like most British gangster movies. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like if it was a little snatched like or something, you know, a little Guy Ritchie in there.
I was just like,
you know.
I'm thinking like Guy Ritchie, right? So,
Yeah.
But nonetheless, it was still a great movie. Like,
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and that scene near the beginning where I forget the character's name, Baby, obviously, is walking around, and it's like totally timed with the music and all the stuff is going on behind. Like that was very cool. It was maybe a little too long for me. Do you know what I'm talking about? That scene where he's walking, yeah, and that's actually an example of the slickness where it's like at the beginning I was like, oh, this is awesome, and then as the song continued, I was like, okay. Well, now it's like, is this a music video? Like it was a little too long for me. You know?
I know there was a little bit of controversy with a lot of people that thought it was maybe too commercial with the selection of music, but I nonetheless I was like I was pretty much into it. So, and anything that Edgar Wright has done, I was never disappointed. So by all means, like you commercialize that movie.
Yeah. So. Well, I mean, he's a really clever, like he's somebody that really thinks about the medium, right?
Mm-hmm.
Thinks it's not just like when he makes comedy movies or movies that are more comedic, it's not just a bunch of comedians riffing, you know what I mean? It's like the comedy is built into the film in different ways, you know?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So what was I going to say? We were talking about the Marvel movies, and I wanted to mention something about that. I was just going to say that for me, I think Endgame, despite really enjoying that movie, like no question enjoying that movie, I don't think I would put it in my top 5. Like I rewatched it not too long ago. Okay. And I watched Infinity War and Endgame and I was like, you know what? Endgame, of course, is an insane achievement, right? Of course, the story, you know, everything, it's an insane achievement. But as a movie on its own, I don't find it that interesting. Like Infinity War has you on the edge of your seat all the way through, right? Because it's like, oh my God, they're killing it's just like they lost, you know?
Yeah, they lost, and it's like the bad guy wins here, right? So it's basically our version of Empire Strikes Back.
I was about to say the exact same thing. Yeah. So to me, naturally, Return of the Jedi is less strong of a movie because it's like, okay, and then the good guys win, you know?
Well, so maybe if they add some Ewoks, it would have been better.
That's what they need. They need a new Ewok scene in the special edition 10 years later, you know. But anyway, so in terms of, I mean, we don't just have to talk about Marvel movies. I mean, that's become like the overarching thing. But are there do you have a favorite director, or are there any like hidden gems? Like I know, like for me, there's certain movies that I'm like, oh God, these are, when everybody asks for a recommendation, these are the ones I go to. Do you have some of those, or are you kind of like, you like everything, or what's
I like everything depending on my mood, but that's the same thing with music, right? I like everything depending on my mood. Like I could always just suggest for people to watch Tarantino movies, but everybody's watching Tarantino movies already. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So there isn't any particular directors that's like popping in my head right now that I I'm thinking of. I'm the thing too. It's like I haven't watched a lot of movies, even though I have a lot of free time. I haven't watched a lot of movies per se that kind of jumped in my head. Like I saw recently, like, what's that movie? The one with Charlize Theron, The Old Guard. That movie that's on Netflix. And
yes.
Yeah, I thought it was okay.
I thought it was. I mean, I haven't looked into it. I usually Wikipedia the movies afterwards, but it felt to me like, and I'm not talking about the ending. I'm really talking about really nearly at the beginning. It felt to me like the pilot of a TV show. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Because you could easily make an adventure of the week out of this.
that's it.
And I don't mean that in a negative way, because I did rather enjoy the movie. I thought it was a cool concept and whatever. But I mean, it definitely kind of lost steam at a certain point. But yeah, I thought it could have been anyway.
I kind of like those kind of immortal type of movies. Like one of my favorite
Sure.
movies of all time is like Highlander.
Highlander, there you go.
You gotta love 80s cult movies, right? So
Yeah.
so and anything with Sean Connery is just amazing.
Man, is there any attempt to reboot Highlander? I don't know if that would be a good or a bad idea.
Well, I like to follow. I follow a lot of forums, and there is
Right.
talks of a reboot. It's been for years, but it looks like it might be full steam with the director of John Wick. As
Wow. Okay.
yeah,
All right. What do you
so-
think of the John Wick movies?
I like it.
Yeah, I think they're great.
I was really impressed with the last one,
Okay.
third one. So, and again, anything with Keanu Reeves, I gotta watch it. So,
Okay.
but no, I'm eager to see what they're gonna go with the fourth one, and hey, just keep making more of those movies and anything. So, it's like one of
Right.
those movies where it's like you're watching, you have your premise and everything, but you're just basically there for the shoot 'em ups and the fights,
Right.
the fight
Right.
scenes, stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
um,
But I remember, I think it was a YouTube video, but I can't quite remember, just talking about why movies like John Wick and what's that? There's another series with, oh my God, I'm blanking on his name. Oh my God. He's a black actor. He's it's another action. I mean, that doesn't narrow anything down. It's another action series that I think there's 2 in the series right now.
it's a series.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh my God. How can I be?
If you can give me the actor's name, I could probably.
I know. I'm just like total. Anyway, it doesn't. I mean, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's that.
I have a feeling you're gonna remember this, and you're gonna like message me tomorrow, and it's gonna be like, oh,
Yeah, exactly. But just saying that the kind of the genre of action movie like got effed over like big time like in the 2000s, because basically everyone was thinking bigger is better, and because CGI became like a huge thing, like it was just like, we're gonna blow up a plane, we're gonna blow up, the plane is gonna crash into a thing, and it's gonna, and because they could do anything with CGI.
Yeah.
And so action movies became like just CGI extravaganzas.
Mhm.
And then they realized that's not what people want. Actually, they want like Jackie Chan doesn't have anything, doesn't have any of that, and it's amazing because you just watch a guy do crazy stuff. So then they kind of took a step back, and now with John Wick and this other movie that the name I can't remember right now, they kind of took a step back and it's like, let's just do some freaking cool action sequences.
Yeah.
Some cool action sequences with guns and with punching and whatever, and that's kind of the success.
But
of
also too, the cinematography comes into play, because depending on like the fighting sequence and the angles that they're shooting in, and it usually a little things makes an action sequence good. Like just doing this the simplest like shots or edits or cuts, like it means a lot, depending on what you're going through for an action sequence. At least that's what I'm noticing for a lot of these recent action movies that's been coming out these past like few years. So John Wick is one of those movies where kind of less is more, but it's explosive, because it's like like with what Keanu Reeves is, with some of the stuff that he does, and a lot of the shoot 'em ups, especially the ones where he's like just like shooting everybody in the in that club there. It's just like, wow. It's like it's not all crazy shoot 'em up. He's just like shooting them in the head, shooting them in the head type of thing. So like, I shouldn't encourage violence, but you know what I mean. But
well, it's also the shooting in the head. It's like also driving the character, in the sense of like he's supposed to be this super badass. So everybody dies from one shot because he knows exactly where to kill. You know what I mean?
Well,
it's not like it takes.
All he really wants to do was just have like revenge the death of his dog.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's just such a crazy premise. It's just the simplest thing, and yet he's ripping off pretty much like half the city just to find this kid or this guy that that effed up and went and shot his dog for some reason.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that is very much on purpose in the sense of like, they're like, nobody cares what the premise is. Let's just have him kill a bunch of people. You know what I mean? And it's really like, okay, like, who cares? It's the girlfriend who died. It's like, let's just kill his dog. And then he goes kills everybody.
But it kind of reminds me of like typical 80s action movies. Like, I think the one that the top of my head is like Commando with Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's like, kidnapped his daughter, but like he's trying to infiltrate like where he's located, but basically he's blowing up like shit and stuff and and all just to try to get to where his daughter is and then find them and then kill this one guy and kill this like fat Freddie Mercury looking dude. You know what I mean? So, but those were the stuff that I grew up watching, like Schwarzenegger and Stallone movies. You know what I mean?
Right.
Now everything is just boiled down to like The Rock, basically. Which is fine with me.
Well, it's I mean, it's like you think about so for me, like some of these terrible these movies that like brought on the 90s, like I said, the overdoing of the special effects, like all the Die Hard sequels, well, not the first and two, the first two are fine, but after that it just became like the helicopter that smashes into this and that.
The third one was great until the very end. It's like
I can't even remember the third
man,
one.
you gotta watch it. It's just like John McClane and Samuel Jackson just basically going into this wild goose chase just to find this one guy, and then it's like it's good because it's kind of like a catch me if you can type of scenario, and then until the very end where just simply enough they just found him at a warehouse. So it's like spoiler alert, you know what I mean? So.
I think it's old enough that's okay.
Yeah.
By the way, the other movie I was thinking about with the black actor whose name I couldn't remember was Denzel Washington, and the movie is The Equalizer and Equalizer 2.
Yeah, I didn't see the second one though.
It's good. They're just it's solid. I do recommend them. Okay, so I think we can kind of wrap it up at this point. I don't know, unless actually, so maybe I'll ask like. I'll try to end in terms of movie recommendations.
Oh man!
So, what would be like? Do you have a underappreciated gem that you like to recommend to people?
I can't think of anything right now. A gem. I'm gonna say anything recent or just anything kind of like
anything. Actually, so if you can keep thinking about this, and maybe in the other questions I'll ask, maybe you'll just come up with an answer, whatever.
Yeah.
What's your favorite like old movie, like from before the like did you watch any black and white movies, like I don't know, Orson Welles and like stuff like this?
I did watch Citizen Kane.
Right.
Back, I thought it was a good movie. I just can't watch it again. But the typical like those type of movies, like I can only remember like watching like The Wizard of Oz or like it's not black and white, but
no, I know. Well, it starts black and white.
Even or every Christmas, I gotta watch It's a Wonderful Life.
Right. Yeah.
Actually, no. You know what? Well, it's a very popular movie, but I just remember watching it like not recently, but a couple of years ago. It's Casablanca.
Sure. Yeah.
It's a great movie. I just remember I was like watching myself like, how come I haven't watched this movie? But I just remember watching it for the first time. And I just grown accustomed to watching it more and more. So I kind of like that kind of film noir type of, but of course it's set during World War II, so it's like
Right.
I guess I could maybe suggest if you're an old timer like me and you haven't watched Casablanca, I would recommend that.
Sure. Yeah.
So but old timer movies, yeah, that I don't watch as much as I would like, but I have watched a lot just to kind of fill in my curiosity. I like Hitchcock movies, like I like Psycho.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like Psycho, and then there's like, well, it's not a black and white movie, but like Vertigo, like Rear Window was another movie that I was.
Rear Window's amazing.
Yeah. So yeah. Oh man, now I feel like watching Hitchcock movies. So.
Well, it's like, I think there's a good reason why certain people become legends.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, sometimes like, oh, I don't want to watch some old movie, but they're like, man, there's a reason why Hitchcock is a freaking legend. Go watch any of those, and they're great.
I don't know if you ever seen any of those Hitchcock like TV, like those. He had a TV series of it, like Hitchcock Presents, and they had like short like.
Right. I know it exists, but I don't think I've seen.
I've seen a few of those. It's something that is of like the Twilight Zone, Outer Limits type of thing, but the classic ones. But oh man, yeah, the Twilight Zone. I remember watching those, being like, wow, what the hell were they thinking? But oh, man, but I used to kind of, I wasn't really gravitate towards a lot of those movies from the 50s, but I think those movies I just mentioned were the ones I really were kind of like into, just because of just out of curiosity. So but oh man, but like I usually there isn't any. It depends on my moods and what kind of movies I would like be into, or I would suggest. I think if you gave me a context of like they exist, but they weren't like as effective as they are today. So
right,
but.
Well, I think a lot of the horror movies that you're talking about today are, well, it's interesting. Like if you look at of course theaters are closed right now, but previously to this, the only movies that were released in theaters were like comic book movies, like giant franchise action movie blockbusters, and horror movies. Yeah. But the horror movies that were released were like, well, for the most part, were like really like they're the, how can I say? I mean, they're the Marvel movies of the. Well, I don't mean Marvel in that. I mean, they're giant things as well. You know what I mean? They're tons of CGI, whatever. But anyway, what I wanted to say is, because you were saying that a lot of the modern horror movies you weren't so into. Have you seen Midsummer or Hereditary?
I haven't seen those two. The thing is, I have.
Oh my God!
I have them. I got those movies, and I've been meaning to watch them, but I think I just need to be in the mood to actually watch a good horror suspense. I've seen Get Out and Us with Jordan Peele.
Sure,
they're good.
Sure,
I prefer Get Out more, but I think those type of movies that I've really appealed to. But I heard a lot of great things about Hereditary, and
oh my God,
I heard it's a must see if you like that kind of suspense horror. So I'm eager to see it. I just need to get in the mood to watch it, which I know I will.
They're both excellent. I personally prefer Hereditary, but it's intense. You gotta be ready for those guys. Yeah. It's pretty bad. And anyway, so I do think that there's so that's horror. What's your favorite in the action genre?
Oh man, I can't. Again,
or actually, do you have a favorite genre?
Do I have a favorite genre? I prefer my reliables are basically comedy and drama. So, but I like anything I'll watch anything if it's good. I'm a sucker for romance. So.
Okay.
But
rom-coms. Bring them on. So what's your favorite rom-com?
Oh my God.
Or what's your favorite comedy? Let's start with that.
Okay, well, man. Anything with oh my God, I'm trying to think the last comedy that I was watching. Like I don't know, I just like cheesy comedies, like anything. I guess anything with Will Ferrell is always good. Anything with like SNL
Hmm.
alums. What was it? I'm always a sucker for watching like The Hangover or anything like the Farrelly
Sure.
Brothers with like Dumb and Dumber or
Right.
Kingpin is always a good movie of mine. But it all kind of varies. But I think the last comedy that I really liked that I was just like really laughing. Man, I can't even think right now. I just man, anything with Judd Apatow I actually like. So
Yeah.
it all depends. But also like I like cheesy like 80 comedies, like anything with like John Candy
Sure.
or just like Blues Brothers is always a thing for me because I just like
Blues
yeah
Brothers is amazing.
yeah
That's yeah.
so
Yeah.
I think any genre any movie that came out of the 80s I love. So
Hmm.
like you're talking about like rom-coms, like I could tell you a lot of those rom-coms I like it's like from the 80s.
Right.
So because I'm just a sucker for anything 80s, like music and movies. It's just I was born in the 80s. I wish I lived my teenage life in the 80s.
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
Just to feel like like an MTV music video. You know what I mean? So,
Right. Right.
but yeah, yeah. So yeah, comedies and dramas. I usually like. I'm a sucker for like my always go to like drama would probably be like Forrest Gump because
Oh, interesting.
I
Okay.
could just recite any line from that movie because I've watched it so many times and I feel for Forrest for you know what I mean like, to go through this thing and all he ever wanted was to be with Jenny and Jenny would always like crap all over him until the very end but then she died.
Yeah.
It's so horrible, but it's like I watch it all
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny because you first of all you talked about like maybe if you had your teenage years in the 80s. I mean that's pretty much like I was born in 76, so that is actually my life was.
So you're that old.
Yeah, I am that old. I'm 44. Yeah, I'm 44. But
Yeah, and I paid off like a good
like
5 years off you, or 5 to 10. It's the Asian gene.
Yeah, there you go. But I saw Forrest Gump when it came out in theaters, of course. And I'll be honest with you, I hated it. I really did not like it. But I haven't seen it since. And I think at the time I was probably like being a jaded teenager or early, like, or maybe it was just past teenager or something like that. And I was like, this movie's bullshit, and I wasn't like taken in by the. It's a fairy tale, basically. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of this ridiculous thing, and I think I just wasn't taken in by that, and I was like, "Fuck this," But I would actually be very curious to rewatch that now.
I don't know.
Anyway.
I think I maybe watch it. I don't know if you're if you would maybe have a different perspective at watching it a second time because it's still kind of the same message, but because it's just a coming of age story, right? So
well, yeah, but I think context is important. Like I remember when I saw oh my god, what's the movie? It's a Hideo Miyazaki movie. I can't remember which one it is, but I remember at the time, like it took me like almost 3/4 or 2/3 of the movie before I started to like get it.
Yeah.
In the sense that I think at the time I was watching a fair amount of Japanese anime and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and I was expecting something for a more adult audience, and then finally like 2/3 or 3/4 of the way through the movie when I realized, oh, this movie is not going to be scary, that this movie is a fairy tale. But I was like, oh, okay, now I see what I'm seeing. You know what I mean? So like you can go into a movie with the wrong expectation, and then that completely like ruins it for you, right? Because you're just like you're waiting for I don't know,
you're waiting for the punchline, basically.
Sure, and then there's no punchline. What's going on? And it's like, oh, but it's not a comedy. Oh, So yeah. But anyway, okay. So we got a couple of answers in there. So you said, drama. Oh, yeah. So the one thing I was going to say is, have you seen, because you said comedy and drama are some of your favorite genres, and you like a lot of any movie with an SNL in them. Yeah. So have you seen Uncut Gems, and what did you think of that?
I have not seen Uncut Gems.
Okay, you haven't seen it.
The thing is for me, and Netflix is like, and like anybody that's watched it that knows me, because I save a lot of videos or movies or TV shows that I know I'll never probably watch. It's just a never-ending scroll down of stuff.
Yeah.
And I know Uncut Gems is there because I really want to watch it, but I don't know if I will ever will. It's one of those things like I came accustomed to is like if I want to see this movie, I really got to get into the mood. So I don't know. I heard good things about Uncut Gems, but and the thing is, I like Sandler in dramatic roles because I did like him in Punch Drunk Love. But I really need to get into the mood to watch Uncut Gems. But I heard it's great. I haven't seen it, and I don't know if I will see it soon or eventually. But it's on my list.
There you go. Yeah. The never-ending list.
There you go.
Anyway, I think we can kind of wrap this up. We've talked about so many different topics. We've gone from your upbringing and beginnings in music to learning how to scratch.
There was a lot of, I'm not gonna lie, there was a lot of oddball turn throughout the stuff. But hey, I'm an open book, so.
Yeah, well, I figured because, it's one of those, like I've said this on a couple of live streams, that in some of these circumstances, and I definitely think in this case, it's like I don't really know you at all. You know what I mean? Like we gig together, right? Yeah. We gig together. It's like we're workmates, but we do this one gig once a week. Yeah. And then that's it. We never really see each other, so I don't really know anything about you. Yeah. So anyway, it's good to get some. Well, as much as this is our,
I guess I could I guess I could also say that I'm an Aries. I don't. I kind of like walks on the beach type of thing.
Okay, all right. I'll keep this in mind for. So as much as
no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, as much as these interviews are like for our public, our audience to know a little bit about you, it's also for me to learn a little bit about you because I don't know anything. So it's a pleasure to get to know you better. No, for real, it is a pleasure to get to know you better. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So thank you for tuning in tonight, everybody. And if we have any other, actually, I'll mention if there's any questions, any last questions, please drop them in. But otherwise, we'll be signing off. I want to thank very much my wonderful guest DJ Overflow, do check him out on Twitch. I'm gonna put that up on the screen one more time.
With Twitch, I'm gonna be doing Thursdays. I don't have a particular time, most likely in the afternoon at 7. I do want to mention though that I do have a gig in this coming Saturday. It's just a small gig, but it's at this place, this bar called Blockhouse. I'm just gonna be DJing like outside in the terrace, playing some lounge music. If you guys want to stop by, you can get all the information on my socials if anything.
All right. Well, so check them out. Check them out on. Was it Blockhouse? Was the name of the place?
Blockhouse.
Blockhouse. Where is that? What area of town?
It's on Ontario Street in Hochelaga.
Okay.
I don't have the information, but
no, it's okay. It's okay. Check out DJ Overflow.
Follow me up on
Search for DJ Overflow MTL on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitch, on pretty much everything. I can't remember. Mixcloud. Check him out, and you'll find the information there. And if not, I think. Oh yeah, we haven't announced our June dates yet, but for our interview subjects, but we will be announcing those soon. We actually may have slightly less interview subjects for June, not June, what am I saying? July. We're in August now. Sorry. For August. I got confused. But this is not Endgame. We didn't go back through time. I forgot to ask you about Star Wars, but anyway, we will talk about that another time. We'll talk about that in real life. We'll talk about that. Oh, nice. Okay, I didn't even notice. Yeah, so August we'll have slightly less interview subjects because I actually have a couple of gigs in August, so we might have some conflicts for Thursdays. Unfortunately, Cypher is not coming back anytime soon. We're still waiting for some developments in the situation in order to make that possible. But we hope to see everybody soon, and we hope to be back soon. So have a great night, and see you next time.